computer.
Welcome to the Dynasty Brothers podcast. It's been a while. I am back. I am Corey Hawktua Pete now, and I am joined as always with my partner in crime, who is chugging a beer, Mr. Jesus himself. We are live. So you were up till 3 a.m. last night, huh? Reading the Argentinians' victory in the Euro Cup. Is that what's
Well,
going
I was
on?
rooting for Colombia. I mean,
So was I.
Spain and Argentina, like just no fun, no fun. Good teams, no
What a
fun.
shit show with the whole entrance. Can you imagine paying $2,000 for a ticket and then
Dude.
having your kids with you and then not even be able to get in and having to explain that to them on the ride home? Like, sorry guys, I know you've looked all year for this. It's one of the biggest sporting events that you possibly could see in your life, but we can't go in because a bunch of people fucked it all up and the event planners fucked it all up too. I mean, that's just sad.
My buddy Jocko, he's Mexico, but he lived in the States sometimes too. But he's like, he brought up the best point, which is like, how the fuck are you going to handle Olympic fanaticism if you can't handle a Copa America fanaticism? Like, you aren't even, like, USA is not even ready. Like, the US is like, well, we have laws, so that should be enough, right? And it's like, no, this is soccer. Nobody
There were
fucking
people
cares
climbing
about
into
jail or
There were
death.
people climbing into the air ducts. Jesus fucking Christ. I mean, when I saw that video, I'm like, what the fuck is going on, man? This is absolutely
Bro.
insane. No shits given whatsoever. That's for sure by some of those fanatical people in their own country. So we'll see. The World Cup should be interesting. I don't think I don't want any part of that, like the violence in the crowd and the shit that's that happened, in that final. I'm sure that's going to happen at, several different events, throughout the World Cup. But they'll get it. I think they'll get it figured out a little bit. They'll have to start it back further and screen people before they get there and have a lot more security and who knows. But it's not a good test run for sure.
Well, I
About
just
as good of
think
a
I think it's just the arrogance of the United States to be like, we have fans, we know how to handle this, and it's like, no, you don't have fanaticism like this. Not unless you're dealing with a Taylor Swift concert. I mean, and at that point, they're probably just fighting over friendship bracelets.
Who had the better test run? The Trump rally where he got shot before the Republican National Convention, or the Euro Cup final?
You mean the Copa America final?
Sorry, the Copa America.
I was gonna say, maybe the missing like $180 billion or whatever they fund the Secret Service that clearly isn't working. Maybe that funding should just go to the security for the World Cup and just call it a day and let everyone, let the presidents just fend for themselves.
Or it did work and they, accomplished exactly what they want to accomplish. But that's another pod for another day. All right, so we're back.
A lot of conspiracies out there. A lot of conspiracies. And
some of
it's fucking weird. So they're actually, it's okay to be a conspiracy theorist when things are really not right.
Well, I think there's one thing of being a conspiracy theorist, and there's another one of just being a critical thinker and assessing the information, because we live in a world now where it's pretty easy to get on X and see videos that are live and can't be edited, and well, they can be, but not right away. And there's so many different smart people out there that hopefully the information comes out to what exactly happened. It just doesn't seem logical whatsoever, but I don't want to get into that. It's too much.
We don't have to. All you need to know is if I saw in a movie what happened in real life, I would have shut it off and said that's impossible.
Yeah, it's like Roadhouse 2,
that's
basically.
It. I don't care where you want to go with it. I don't care who you want to blame. I don't care where the tinfoil hat goes after that. I really don't. I just know that
this is
what I understand
unbelievable
of our how security is taken seriously, and it just doesn't make sense. Anyways, on to football.
Yeah. So stay safe out there, folks, especially the folks in the United States
Yeah,
of
don't be
America.
a
Could get
dick.
kind of wild.
Like it.
Don't
Yeah,
be
just
nice to
like
people.
it's okay to like be mad about the situation and taking a pin, but just don't be a dick, dude. Don't go
Yep.
don't go overboard. Don't go overboard.
Yeah. Don't be
We're
an
all gonna
idiot.
wake up tomorrow. It's
Uh,
gonna be the same. It's gonna be fine.
exactly right. So here's the agenda for today. We're going to talk draft winners and losers. We're going to talk auction winners and losers. We're going to talk the top 10 teams that we both feel are kind of early front runners. We're going to talk a little RB strategy, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the free agent dilemma and how that is being somewhat manipulated or not. And so let's get started. So the draft went down. This was the first year that I didn't really have a lot of picks, which was kind of tough to sit back and watch. But it was really interesting. A lot of activity going on during the draft. A lot of people trading back, getting more picks. A lot of people moving up and going all in. So why don't you start and give me a couple of the kind of key winners or losers that you have, and we'll go from there.
For the draft. So
Yeah.
should I pull up a shared screen so we can go through it? Why not, right? Let's
Yeah.
give some
It's always
context.
good to look at.
See, look at us. We're trying to get better, you know. 1 year at
We're getting better.
1 year at a time, Corey. All right. Can you see my screen? We good?
Yep, we're good.
Awesome. Okay. So I'll go through my perspective because I was very involved in this draft. I've never had picks. I sent you a spreadsheet with all our historical draft information, and it's just mind blowing how few of draft picks I've made in the history of this league. Like I've clearly just traded my capital for competing or trades or whatever it may be. Like, but this is the first time I had like close to a full draft and like picking kind of high. So I was trying to trade up from my spot. I didn't like my spot. I was trying to trade up before the draft, and then I was hope nobody wanted any of it. And then I was trying to trade up during the draft, and then it felt like everyone was just totally cool and their guy was there, and nobody was interested in it. Even though, as Georgia would point out, everyone still took 4 hours to take their pick. Actually not true. Look at these picks. 3 hours a couple times now. Not too bad. I went really hard at that 107 to try and get Brian Thomas. I specifically because I have Lawrence as well. So that's kind of the point there. I was like really willing to do dumb stuff and I still couldn't pull it off. The action was easier trading down for me. Like I could always find trade partners to get down, which actually isn't always that easy, right? Like you assume somebody always wants an on the clock pick. And in a lot of these leagues, that doesn't happen. But I feel like in blue chip, it does. Like in blue chip, everyone's like too itchy to get to their guys. So I feel like getting down's easy. Getting up is, I never offered so many trades in my life than I did in this draft. And most of them were trying to move up and not working. So,
Yeah, I think there's a
go
couple
ahead.
points there, like some of the things that I'll talk about a little bit too is there's a bunch of guys that had accumulated a bunch of picks, and then is it smarter to take all those picks and throw more darts in the first and second round, or is it make more sense to use those picks and move up to say in the top 7 and try to get a stud? So the Argo strategy was to use all of his picks and go up and get Marvin Harrison Jr., right?
Yeah.
And then there's other people that had 6 or 7 picks in the top 2 rounds that decided to take their swings at different players. So That's something I'm going to talk about with the three people that I pinpointed in this draft. But and then the other thing is, I just think what you're talking about is a little bit of flexibility, right? Like if you lock in on a guy and he's not there, do you then just stubbornly take the next guy, or do you
I did that in this
pivot
draft and
and
hated myself. I did that in this draft and I fucking
yeah,
hated myself. I was
and that
pissed.
appears to happen in this draft. Like it's like
Yeah.
there's compared to some of the other 16 team leagues, it's very much different where guys were taken, obviously, but it's pretty obvious that people had pinpointed someone to me and they were happy to take that person and then just move on. But
Yeah.
we'll see. I thought there was a clear break after probably pick six, like Brock Bauer. I mean, Brian Thomas, Ricky Parasol. You kind of like, okay, are we sure about these picks? There's no obviously 100% certain picks, but I feel like after Brock Bowers, it's like, okay, now we're in a different category, and even Ladd McConkey going number 5, like I think you would take him out of that. So maybe it's really only top 5 picks that I think are
Yeah.
blue chip guys that are probably going to be just fine. Anyway, go ahead and talk about some of the points that you saw or people that maybe won or lost in the process.
I mean, I like Keon Coleman at number 11, man. Like, I was trying to move up probably since like 108 or 9 to try and get him, and he kept falling, and I just kept firing trades out. I just think, I'm kind of a, I don't own him. I don't know how I don't own him anywhere, but I don't. But I think he's not just because there's the vacancy. I think he's gonna be good, you know.
I think he's
And
definitely a red zone threat that could easily get those
well,
10 touchdowns.
in a league like this, you want a guy who's gonna have an opportunity to be the number one or the number two right away, and he fits that bill, right? Like
Yep.
that's what those top three guys, they're like the only argument against Odunze is that he's just not the top dog right away. But his
Yeah, but I
talent
think
is
his
so
talent there.
superior, it doesn't matter. That's a testament to how good he is as a player, of where he still gets drafted in fantasy, even though it's like, hey man, this is almost a long play. Even if he does
Yep.
produce year one, he's not. He might have some weeks that'll win it for you, but like I don't think we're looking at him getting 1,500 yards out the gate, right? Like I mean maybe, but
I I
there's
don't
just too many
I don't think
mouths to
that'll ever
feed.
be.
I don't think they'll
Yeah,
put that pressure
he
on
has
him
a
right
large
away.
he's got a large range of
So
outcomes, whether if he's able to run more routes than the fade route in the end zone and a fly route deep. Like Josh Allen likes to throw the ball deep, so he could easily finish with 700 yards and 10 touchdowns and immediately fill that kind of Gabe Davis role. But then you look at who else they have here. Is it going to be Shakir taking a step forward, Dalton Kincaid taking a step forward? Is it going to be Curtis Samuel that's going to lead them in targets and
yeah.
yards? Like, so I think there's a large range of outcomes for him. I would be surprised if by year 2 he hasn't made a significant impact, but he could also be someone that just doesn't pan out. I mean,
No,
if
for
he
sure.
doesn't increase
I like
his ability
to
to
me
do
to
different
me in
things.
this specifically, because like I think we're way deeper in these 16 team leagues. That's actually a silly thing to say because it's a 16 team league, but we
Right.
are generally we're deeper that you can park a guy for a year or two, right? In BC, you need points, man. Like if you got a guy that's just going to be average for a couple years, that's going to really affect your chances. So like I always like, Brian Thomas Jr. is probably number 2 out the gate. Maybe it's Gabe Davis, but I think he's too good. And then he might overtake Christian Kirk. And then I think that's kind of like what Keon Coleman has with Samuel there. Like we wouldn't be surprised if either of those guys led that team in receiving, right? Their teams in receiving. McConkey's the same thing, right? They have guys, but the the news and like how he was drafted and how high they are on him and like everything coming out is like he's gonna have the opportunity to be the guy. And so those are the guys that interested me the most. Lad got, I felt like got, I don't know, people got high on him like as the farther along it went from the draft.
I
Him
think he
going
started
5, I
off
thought was
like
pretty.
like the I thought him going like 12 to 16 was kind of maybe a month before the draft more realistic. And I don't
Yeah,
think in the 4 drafts that was involved, he
but now,
was ever, I mean,
yeah,
he never came past, never picked 7. I don't think I saw him past pick 7 after
but
the draft started.
he's the fourth wide receiver off the board almost all the time now, in like everything I'm seeing out there. So it's like, but that wasn't the case after draft, right? Like, I think people had to
Yeah.
like really confirm that he was doing well in the camps and stuff. Like, I just, because he's like, he doesn't have a lot of numbers in college. It's all his metrics and what he can do well. And the argument of like, well, he didn't get asked to do that much at Georgia. But when
Yeah.
what he did was so crucial, it's what you need in the NFL, right? So it's like, okay, cool. How does it translate to fantasy? Is he just a third down, dump off guy? But like usually if you're good at
Well,
that,
he's
you
only
just
going
get
to
the
play in the
ball.
slot. He's
Well,
only going to
yeah,
play
but
a
if
few receivers
you're
at the
good in
slot.
the slot, like you're getting fed. So, anyways, we're on a
You're getting five,
tangent
five
on,
receptions, 5 receptions for 50 yards in this league is pretty good if that's your
and that's
average.
probably the
Like there's
floor
nothing
for
wrong.
him. Like honestly, like unless something really
Yeah.
weird happens, I think that's a fair floor for him.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like those were the guys that I liked. So the best value of that was at 11. I think getting Keon Coleman right there was pretty sweet. And then after that, it's like we get the run of the second tier running backs. And I was super curious when those guys were going, right? Because in this league, running backs tend to go higher.
Yeah.
And I felt like they went where they were kind of supposed to go. Maybe a little high, but like kind of where they were supposed to go, you know?
I think people also
And
had to talk themselves into a running back though this year because it was a wide receiver draft. That's what was talked about prior to the draft starting. It was deep at wide receiver, not deep at running back. But in this league, which we'll talk about a little bit later with RB to RB or not to RB, you can't really take those chances. You have to find a guy and take a dart throw or you're going to be fucked. And so
well,
I think
115 tells you that because Ray Davis went right after the second tier three, and I
right.
don't think he's in that tier. So that's where it's like,
I've
oh,
never
this
seen
is where
him.
it jumped, right?
Right.
This is where people are you get like, okay, now people are going to start overpaying for running back, and even Bucky Irving going 120. I was just like, Jesus, all right, because like
Ray
I kind of was
Davis
trading
has
down. I was trading down like I was even thinking like with the could I get, Bucky at the end if I kept trading down or something like that? But it's like, man, like once one person commits to overpaying and bringing that next tier up, it's just a waterfall effect, you know?
right.
And that's to me where you see the value just decimate, right? Like after the Blake Corum pick, which feels very chalky, now every running back taken after that is a reach rather than
Yeah.
where it feels like they should go. You know what I mean? But that's just the way it
Would you rather
works.
would you rather have like here's the I mean, I don't want to get into the RB specifics too much in this segment, but taking Ray Davis at 115 when he's typically going in the, a third rounds of a 16 team draft, like so another 15, 16, even 20 picks later, would you rather take that dart throw with a 115 that is a very crucial pick other than say having an Adonai Mitchell there or someone else that you feel a little bit more, or even like a Jalen Polk, like that seems a little bit more safe, and that's where it gets a little bit dicey. It's like you have to hit that Ray Davis pick if you're going to take him 115, otherwise it's just
Well,
fucking you know
and I don't know if Timo's a Bills fan because he took the two Bills, but to me, if he's not, right, like why wouldn't you take Warren, Lloyd, or Corum and then just be okay with the next wide receiver? I mean, he might have been as high on Coleman as I was, but like my point is, if you knew you were going to walk away with a wide receiver and a running back with those two picks, I would have flipped it. And then,
yep,
but maybe he
that's
doesn't like
exactly right.
Leggett and Burton, but like I would have been okay if I was just like Coleman goes, but I get, one of those next tier running backs, and then like Burton or Leggett who went right afterwards.
So I actually
But
had
it's
I
so
actually
easy to say now, but it's like when you're on the clock, you just don't know what people are gonna pick. you know?
Yeah.
So he's probably like, even getting into his head, he's like, okay, I'm sitting here. The big three are still available. I'll get Coleman. I'm 4 picks away. I bet I'll get one of them. And then
Correct.
all three of them get taken and you get punched in the mouth and you're fucked. And that happened to me, man. I traded multiple times because there were four guys with 5 picks and all four of them went. And it's just like, fuck. All right. And I think
Yeah.
this league's super savvy for that, man. Like, hats off. Like, I'm not that involved in a lot of these, but I feel like you can't. We talk about this all the time. If you want a guy, you got to draft him, even if you reach.
Mhm.
And if
Yep.
and that's why you can't fault the 115. It's like it's a reach, but it's like, what's he gonna do? Trade down and then suddenly Ray Davis is gone, and now he's like reaching for the next. You know what I mean? It's just a waterfall effect. It's tough. It's tough in this
So
draft. Sometimes you get lucky, sometimes
I
you
have
don't.
I have Timo down as not sure if he's a winner or loser. And here's what I said. Okay, so he drafts Coleman at 111. He drafts Davis at 115. He drafts another receiver, Wilson, at 19. He drafts the best DN at 31, which I think is a great pick. He drafts arguably one of the best safeties at 209, and then he gets a linebacker at 309, which is just a dart throw. So
Mhm.
my question is, if Coleman, if Davis hits and Turner and Bishop are more than likely going to hit, he's had a good draft. Now, if Coleman doesn't perform, Davis is a bust, Wilson doesn't do shit, are you better off taking those 3 picks and moving up and getting a top 5 player, a top 6 player, or say Coleman, Davis, and Wilson for Jonathan Brooks? And does
Right.
Vito take that, right? So, I mean, I think that's where it gets really dicey, and that's how a team can either be built really quickly or they can struggle from year to year because all that capital is very, very risky. I mean, I would say there's only probably 2 picks, 31 and 209, that are more than likely going to score points for him because of, where they're at positionally. And, so I just think that he could be a winner and he could be a loser. It's just that's the diciness of the draft. And so I'm rooting for Timo. I think Wilson could be good in Pittsburgh. Davis, we'll see. Coleman could be good, but it's just super dicey. And I wonder, like, if the Argo strategy of just going in and using 3 of those picks and getting the best guy in the draft is the safer route, and or when Davis shows up at 15, do you just move back and collect? Okay, 115. I missed on those 3 running backs. Didn't really want Davis. So now I'm going to move back and move 15 for, say, pick 206 and pick 221, or I don't know, like, what that deal looks like. But I had to imagine that he had offers for pick 115 before he selected Davis, and that's where I think that he might have been able to improve his draft, is if he doesn't make that pick and then just says, you know what, I'm gonna have to eat my medicine here and try to get someone that I think is, does Davis have a better shot of hitting than pick Burton or Adonai Mitchell or Jalen Polk, like the 3 guys I mentioned at wide receiver? I don't know. So I think that's
Yeah.
where you have to start playing the game and be stubborn. But interesting,
But again,
build for
man, if
sure.
you just make a commitment, I want a wide receiver and a running back with those 2 picks. If that's what he did, then he had to do what he did. Because otherwise, you're just trading down and gambling. I did that. I lost every time. Like, sucks.
But I think
You
you
know?
have to pivot though and be flexible. If the guy that's there that you thought wasn't going to be there, then you can't be stubborn. And I think that's something that, as you progress in this league and see what the actual running backs that are, 3rd or 4th round actual draft picks, like, like you got to kind of maybe, well, shit, maybe I can go get the top linebacker at 120, 7, and move that 115 and get a linebacker and then another, two more dart throws at running back, like a Will Shipley and
Yeah. But he had a lot of
a
picks,
couple guys.
though. When you have tons of picks, you're kind of like more, you're more into like trading up than trading down, right?
Right.
So,
So let's
yeah,
so let's look at
uh,
another guy that had a lot of picks too, Bad Boys, right? So he goes with Lloyd, who is arguably the 3rd running back off the board. He got him, a little bit earlier than 115, I think 112 or 113 maybe. No, yeah, somewhere
113.
around there.
Yeah.
113, yeah. And then he got like Leggett at 116, which I think was normal value and kind of draft position for Leggett. And then he got Jermaine Burton, which I think was a little bit early from what I've seen in other leagues. And then he's got Jalen Pope, by all accounts, has actually got a chance to be the number one guy in New England. He got Eric All, and then he finally went, and then he drafted another wide receiver. So he drafted 4 wide receivers and 1 running back, and then finally takes his first defensive player in in the defensive end at 227. So a different strategy, ton of picks. He could have moved up and maybe tried, and I'm sure that Warren tried to move up and use some of those picks to move up. But if he hits on 2 of those 3 wide receivers, I would say, and the running back, I say that's a pretty successful draft. And I kind of like what he did there, but it just kind of fell to him in the numbers, and he got aggressive on the guys he wanted.
He traded a lot too. I traded with him a bunch of times. Like he got 113 was mine. So I traded down with him on that one.
Yeah, and you kept trading back. So
I did because my roster needed, like, I just needed a base. I needed more players. And what's crazy is I was willing to like trade up and kind of fire my whole draft away though. So like you were saying, like, if I would have got Brian Robinson, I would have not had a draft. It would have just gotten him. Right. And then but by trading down, I ended up getting in play. I had a lot of guys I liked that I thought would be falling, and none of them did. like they did in other drafts and stuff. So it was like, I don't know. I gambled a lot, but like I don't know. I don't regret the decision to do it because what I didn't like was picking where I was. I wanted to go up or down. When I failed to go up, I told myself, because with that pick, I would have taken Blake Corum. And it just like, it'd been fine, right? But I end up trading down a few times, stacking like 4 more picks, and then I'm up with Malachi, and I'm like, okay. I mean, like I'm not ecstatic as my first round pick being, a guy on the Jets.
I think,
but
you would have to wage that though, right? Like, is it Blake Corum or Malachi Corley and the 3 other picks you got to move back? Right?
No, 100%, because I traded down a couple times, like, and I would have never traded down if I liked who was there, right? If like one of my guys was there, but they weren't. So it's just like I have a pool of dudes. So it's like I'll just move down if I have a pool of dudes. You know what I mean?
And I think I probably am a little biased. Not that I have a ton of these guys on my team. I actually only have Eric Hall on any of my teams, but I like Lloyd. I'm not a huge Leggett fan. I think that's like that's a hit or miss pick. Obviously,
I like him.
I like Burton. In Cincinnati,
Burton's gonna be
I like Jalen Polk, and I like Eric Hall. So I think so, yeah. And so and
I think,
notice,
is he one of your winners? I know it's spoiler alert, but
he's a winner. He's a winner to me. Yeah.
I thought Warren had a great draft. I really did. I was
did
just,
too.
even though I was giving him all those picks by trading down, and he kept picking. And then I started looking at him like, man, he's picking good guys. Like, what can I say?
Well, I liked Warren's draft, and if you notice, he's keeping everybody but Lloyd and I think Leggett on the taxi squad, so he's okay with losing any of those guys for 2 first rounders.
I think
and
he should be when it's that late.
He also did a really good job in the auction, which we'll talk about, getting some of the studs with his money, because he's in a quick rebuild and he thinks he's going. I mean, I think he has 2 firsts, a couple of seconds next year already, so he's retooling really quickly. And I thought that he did an excellent job in the draft. So good job, Warren. And then the third one that I looked at was Sin, who also had quite a few picks, and I called him a winner. Sin's actually team we'll talk about a little bit later is one of my top 10s. I really like the right pick. He moved up the board relatively quickly across leagues. I think I got him at 201 in the first draft that I had this year in the 16 team league. I like that he, took a stud or one of the best linebackers at 129. I think those are safe picks. Again, like you're not throwing darts there. You're getting a guy that's probably going to come in and play and be productive more than likely. He took a gamble on Vidal, which is something that, okay, we'll see if it works out. He's a 6th-round running back, like in a good situation with Harbaugh. And then he, got, another linebacker at pick 212. So, again, he went running back. And if you
Sim
look at
took all
Sim's
my
team,
guys. Well, not all of them, but like he was picking right before me, like in a lot of these cases, and it was just like, ah, you did it. He took the guy I was targeting. So, but
it's possible
I,
after this that Tim will be in a top 6. I think with the auction that he had and with the draft and how he's built his team. Like I think on offense, he's probably one of the most explosive teams, and
I think
he
Trevin
has a shit
Wallace
ton
is
of
a
running.
stud. I think Trevin Wallace is a stud. Those linebackers went a little high, but it's kind of normal. I thought maybe it wouldn't happen because last year was like no linebacker. I think the highest scoring linebacker was Ivan Pace Jr. Like I think all the rookie
As a
linebackers
rookie.
sat. I think they all sat. They're just, you know, they're all
Yeah, I
breakout
think what.
candidates for this year. Like, so you have like
Well, I
since
took I took Will Anderson at pick 118 last year. I mean, and I think Jack Campbell might have been the first or second linebacker
yeah.
taken last year, if I
And
remember
he was a
correctly.
rotation guy, and so was I mean, shoot, Simpson didn't even see the field barely any because they had I mean, you knew that was going to happen, but they had Queen and Roquan, right? And then Queen
It's
leaves, and now
interesting.
he's like, he should be a stud, but you have to wait till now to find out if he's the guy. That kind of sucks at
Right.
linebacker when you're drafting that high. Like, you want to know year one, you have the meat, you
A
know?
stud. Yeah. I
Yeah.
agree. But at the same time, I think they're a little bit safer picks if they're the top 3, 4 in the draft. And I like that strategy of, when it's a little bit later in the first round or even early second, of taking a guy that, you're not going to miss on.
Yeah. I think
You think
Cooper
pretty
might have to
confidently that.
compete with McDuffie for snaps initially, so like he could even be that Jack Campbell rotation role. We don't know yet.
Right. Yeah.
It's just it's not as sure as it used to be. That's kind of my
All
point. Like
right.
I would believe personally that Trevin Wallace, the timeline for him to be relevant is like as good as anyone else as well, right? So
Right. Yeah. Yep. Do you have anything
who
else
else
on
you
the
got?
draft, Ben, that you want? No, those are my three.
Um,
Those are the ones that I for different reasons, but um any
I
other
would
picks that you
I
like in the first round?
in the first round. I mean, like I thought Troy Franklin fell a lot to the veto. I think he got him in a decent spot. I don't know, not really. I guess all these guys are like kind of the same though. One thing I
I mean, like,
thought,
so do you like the Luke McCaffrey pick over a linebacker there? Like that's the stuff I'm talking about, right? So
no,
you got
I don't
Junior
like that
Colston.
pick. I don't care if you're a Washington fan. Why are you taking him over Sanat? Like like they got
Yeah.
guys there. I I don't like love that pick, right? Like I was pretty convinced I was gonna have to trade down again. Oh no, because I at that point when he was picking, I was it was either Baker or Malachi for me. Um,
I would have taken Cooper, Snanot, Dallas, Peyton Wilson, um, all over Luke McCaffrey. Like, and
yeah,
probably Laku as
hey
well.
man, me too. Um,
But we'll see. It could end
I
up being
sold myself on Malachi. This is like when I started like getting in this area where I didn't think I'd have to pick. So now I have to like start looking more guys like a little like you got to be sure in BC. You got to look. For me. So and I think it was right when the draft video came out for the Jets. and you saw like they tried to trade up for him since like 201 or something like that to get him. Like they were trying to trade up the entire fucking draft to get Malachi. So they're so high on him. Like they're crazy high on him. So
Yeah.
when an organization's that high on a draft pick, sometimes you got to just be like, all right, like they're going to force this guy to play. And in
Yeah.
BC, I like that. I like that. It's not like, okay, go in and compete and let's see what happens. I mean, Troy Franklin, I mean, let's be honest. It's like the only thing we're attracted about him is that he's, in theory, going to catch balls from his quarterback, right? And, but like, I don't know. There's a
Yeah, he
bunch of
felt
dudes in Denver, and they need to prove they're not a dumpster fire, right? Like, I don't know.
I think the same thing kind of applies with Argo taking Braylon Allen that we were talking about with the running backs, and like that's a reach for sure. I personally would rather have had a top-notch defensive player there as well. But I mean, you gotta throw your darts, especially with Breece Hall there.
I just,
I don't
I
understand.
know, I hear what you're saying, but like, no organization wants workhorses anymore.
No, that's for
So we're just
sure.
going to be stuck with two guys in every backfield. At least,
Yep.
a 1A and then like a one, maybe not a 1B, but like if you're getting 35% of the carries, you're a relevant running back, right?
Yep.
Like,
Yeah.
you go look at like what's going to happen with Eckler and Robinson. If they finish the year and they're both like good, I know we're not going to be surprised, But like a lot of backfields are like have been like that. I think we just kind of like la 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 la, like even Jameer Gibbs, like it's like yeah, he's a beast, but guess what? There's another running back that you are going to start every year in that backfield also.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like I get it. The Brees Hall, I'm with you. A, he's been hurt, and B, if they're going to try to make a run this year, they're not giving that guy 85, 90% of the carries. Like they don't want to.
Yeah.
So
And
and
have
for
touchdowns
and for that
there.
Braylon Allen pick, like let's just say like between Braylon Allen and Shipley to me is such a superior talent to Braylon Allen, but like Braylon Allen's the number two. Brees Hall's not even practicing, so he's the number one getting all these reps, right? Like it matters. If
Yeah.
unless they sign Leonard Fournette or something like that, and then you're just fucking fuck,
Yeah. But
and
Braylon
that
Allen's
happens.
also a top. Let's just be honest. Brees Hall's a top three running back. He is as close to a workhorse running back in the league that we have. He catches balls on third down. He runs inside the goal line, and he's fucking going to get 20 carries a game if they're successful. And if he stays healthy. So
Yeah.
that's where it gets a little dicey. I mean, a guy like Shipley that you probably can get what he went like the mid to late second, I think. Like I don't know. Does Shipley possibly outscore Allen in this year? I mean, 213.
No
So
way.
no, okay.
Dude, he's got. I mean, I don't want to say no way. If they specifically have a plan for him and they know they're gonna ditch like a couple of their running backs on the roster right now, sure. But like, it's crowded. Like, if let me take this back. If Saquon Barkley does a Saquon Barkley and goes out for the season, then
Mm,
yes, absolutely. But same with Brees Hall. If Brees Hall goes out, pray that Allen's going to be a fucking gem, right? And
yeah.
Shipley's not the number two. He's not going to be the number two guy. He's going to kind of like, he might be a third down.
Gadget player.
I think he's
Like
just more,
he
I
would
think he's more insurance if Barkley goes down that they have a committee that they like to replace that.
yeah.
And when you're not the committee, but you're the contingency plan committee, that's like why I think I own Shipley in like one league, but I loved like I was like I'm gonna own Shipley in every league, and then he got drafted by the Eagles. I'm like motherfucker, you know.
Yeah.
I'm like man, I wanted him to go anywhere where he's just like competing for the number two, and it's just like let's see what happens, But
Right.
And he might be doing that in the Eagles, man, but like I don't know, man. I think they got too many guys, too many good
I would have liked
backs
to see
that
him
they
in a place
like, that they know
like
what they get.
Arizona, like where he could actually be the legit third down back with Connor, like
Yeah.
and even Lloyd there. It's like, okay, Lloyd's not he's not a pass receiving back. Like, so at least I think you have to have three, and there's usually two bangers and one guy that's trying to do it all that can do a little bit, and then you have another guy that can kind of fill in and play both roles and spot for 5 to 7 touches a game, and it'll be hard for Shipley to beat out Gainwell. So I mean,
So
it's
Lloyd, yeah, I agree with that. And Lloyd to me feels like when Aaron Jones got drafted, and so this is a while back, but like everyone's like, dude, they already have too many guys, but they spent a third round pick on him and they really liked him, and it didn't take him long to become the dude, you know?
Oh, I'm
And
sorry.
it's
Yeah,
like,
I was thinking of Benson when I mentioned Arizona, but same concept, right?
yeah,
Like,
no, but like the same thing with Lloyd. It's like, wait, they have Jacobs and Dylan, and like if he's on another team, he's in the tier above, right? Like his talent level, if he's on a different position in a different league, or sorry, on a different team, um, he's going maybe even ahead of Benson. Like he's
yeah,
up there.
yeah,
He's only down in this tier. Actually, both him and Wright are only down in this tier because of their where they went.
yeah. I
Like
would agree with
Wright's
that.
a fucking Wright is seems like he could be electric, but it's like
But I've heard
six touches a game. Like what are we
reports
getting?
that AJ
Bosa's
Dillon
a
might not even make
starter.
the team, so that could
Well,
yeah,
now we know.
yeah,
Now we're seeing some of that, right? We know they don't love AJ Dillon. We just do. Like it's
yeah.
why they got Jacobs. They kind of wanted to keep Jones, but he was like, "Fuck that! Like, get me out of here."
Yeah, but Jacobs is also coming off a really subpar, inefficient year where he was out of shape and blah blah blah. Like, so how is he going to be after he got a contract? Motivated? I don't. I mean, I think Lloyd's in a probably one of the best situations other than Brooks, like to step in and play right away. Um,
In theory, but like he walks in and you're like, you already have these two backs. It feels far away, but it's probably in reality not. And if you're
right.
just taking guys off a talent level, like in blue chip, it's gonna suck if he's getting 5 carries a game and then pops off maybe a little later here and there, and then next year they like re-sign Dylan as depth, and that's what I mean. Like those annoying like when guys are in this depth chart situation and the depth chart situation doesn't go away, it just sucks. But
Yep.
I took a chance on Aaron Jones. He's still on my team somehow. Uh, but it worked out, and I got him 201, I think.
All right.
At,
So we're an hour in. I think we kind of cover the draft. We got to move forward to the auction here. Unless you have anything pivotal to say, but we're going to talk more about the running backs in another segment too. So anyway, if you're gonna make a draft pick in the first 15 to 25, in the first round, you better make sure you hit because they're valuable. And like trying to figure out where those points are going to come from are super important. And so that's kind of just my
the
overall
last
strategy.
thing I will say about the draft, and remember we were talking about how maybe Timo just said I'm definitely getting a wide receiver and I'm definitely getting a running back. I don't know if I was that narrow in what I did, but when I traded my entire future draft picks for the 2 picks I got from Georgia, I knew for a fact I was going to get 2 defensive players with those picks that were going to start by next year's Super Pop. That was 100% my goal in making that, because I was like, if I have those picks next year and I take those defensive players next year, I have to like it's super pot and I can't like wait for them to get their training wheels off, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. I went, I'm high on Law too, and I like Knight a lot because there's 2 guys on 1-year contracts there in Seattle at middle linebacker,
Yeah.
and pretty
And my
easy.
own
You can skip them.
My personal strategy is I burnt all my picks in every other league. The only league that I didn't use my 2025s was in BC because I want to save it and use a first and a second to go get someone that's going to impact another finals run this year, right? And like if it doesn't, and if I start off the season and it's kind of shaky, then like I just hold them for next year and try to load up for the Super Potter in the next 4 year cycle. And so I personally was just like, I'll sit back and wait. Don't try to go buy someone that you're not sure of, like a Jermaine Burton, and use all my picks for him because I don't know if he's going to work out or not. So like, let's just wait and see, and then use first, second, third, and fourth to get a guy that's already producing this year. So, I mean, it's just you gotta so many different strategies to look at, and depending on where you're at in your build and competitive level, it's very interesting on how you got to
I
use
think
your pick.
Latu and Turner, like in our historical drafts, always go in the middle of the rounds, a first
Yeah,
round, And I think because they fell, because everyone just focused on the receivers and the offense and thought, like, I think that like reflected where they're going in drafts in general. And I think that's a real big mistake. Like, I
yeah,
think Verse, Turner, and Latu are like blue chip Nick Bosa types, Will Anderson type, like guys that you just park and score
I
every
agree.
damn week.
Yep.
And they all these drafts, like I mean, I didn't get them as much as normal because in a lot of our 16 team leagues, I'm actually really deep. But I remember one draft I got like in the 16 team leagues, I got a Turner at the end of the second and Latu at the end of the third. And I was just like,
Right.
nope, nope. It's just like, I know there's depth at the position, but because of that, that's actually why you want the best of the best, right? Sure, you can plug all these guys in, but like every single chip I've ever had, my defensive ends were apex. Like
Yeah.
they won me my championships. They got 40-point weeks in the playoffs, and you're just like, thank you, you
Well,
know?
Daniel Hunter was my best player last year, and I got him for a late second,
Blue chip.
I think.
You
So, I mean,
gotta love them, man.
it's and then traded him for three guys this year. Right. So, it is what it
Hey,
is.
trade them to
All
me.
right. So let's
Thanks.
move on. Yeah. Let's move on to the auction. Crazy auction,
Hold on, I have one
obviously.
more thing I have to say. I'm sorry, and it'll be
All right.
fast. I promise. But you touched on this with Bad Boys keeping guys on his taxi squad. The interesting thing that I think about in other leagues, but it's more like it's more important here is like when I made that trade and I got 203 and 303, I can't park those guys on my taxi squad. Because like
Right.
getting a second and a third for a 203, it's just like no fucking
No, first
chance, right?
a
Or a
first and a
first and a
second.
second.
Yeah.
No, but my point is
Right. Right.
when I at the top of the round, so there's like this threshold when you're like, and I have it. It's like, okay, Trotter's end of the second. You want to give me a first and a second for an end of the second pick? No problem. I'll stash them. But that's a weird dynamic. It's nice to pick at the top. The problem is you got to keep them on your roster because like it's
Absolutely.
just
There isn't a
pure.
single there isn't a single player in the first round outside of the top five. Maybe McClunky included in that I would give two first next year for.
Yeah, no.
Just so I mean, like it's all a crapshoot after the top six picks, like at least until you have production, and that was my whole point. Like save your picks. If you think that you can activate someone that is a late second for a first and second, and he's banging out 10 points or 12 points a game, fuck it, like I'll take that all day long. So
Yeah, but if
uh
Latu comes out the gate and has like 6 sacks in the first 4 games, he's worth the first and a second round pick, right? Like
100%,
you
100%.
go
Yep.
steal him. So it's like, anyways, on
Yep.
on we go.
All right, so I'll start just with a few kind of bullet points on the auction in general. There nothing really too prevalent here, except for so Sin City had 26 players. He had the most people taken in the auction. Dominion had 24, freshly squeezed 20. GW had 5 and spent $705 in cap, which we'll talk about a bit, I'm sure. 6 owners have over $200 left in cap. I don't think that you can actually make that move and still be a competitor. So there's obviously a strategy in order to do that. That's Abe has 240, Prestige 247, Wildcats 257, Packers 200, P. Diddy 246, and Fleece 215. None of those guys are in my top 10 this year as far as being competitive. My guess is that
Yeah.
they're trying to save a little bit of cap to take on and accumulate draft picks, or kind of use that. Otherwise, it's
If you're
just absolutely.
rebuilding, it's a good strategy. You know, I don't know about that much cap. Like, I'm still in the ballpark that, like, well, for sure, like, fill your roster and at least get guys. Always try and get those guys you can trade, you know?
Yep, yep,
I think one
yep,
year when I knew I was kind of rebuilding, I just took all the free agent like linebackers and DNs and running
yep,
backs, and it's just like as soon as they get a team, I know I can trade them to somebody, you know.
yep.
So,
That's one. That's absolutely. I'm in agreement there. That's a strategy that I
and if
would
none of
employ
them work
too and
out, who
have in the
cares? You're
past.
not competing, you know. It's
Right.
like, all right,
Yeah. You can still
dead
move
dead
them for a
money this year.
third. Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh, the other points I had are just two people specifically. Again, bad boys. I think Warren has done a really good quick rebuild, like I mentioned earlier. He
Dude,
was the one that got James Conner for 234, which I think was probably the steal of the auction, in my opinion, for value wise. I think James Conner's still going to have a really good season if he stays healthy. He got the Packers QB, a little expensive, probably more than a franchise tag this year, but still a pretty solid player. He got Mostert. I can't remember exactly. Oh, the most expensive guy next to Moss, right? But 1 year, if it's a competitor and he's still producing this year, he can trade him off and get another draft pick. And then he got
yep.
Jonathan Cooper, the defensive end, who can either be franchise tagged and be a long-term play. So I thought he did a really good job using his capital to get studs that he can move or kind of
He
semi-compete
already did it
this
with
year.
me, man. I mean, I traded him. Um, I traded for Connor.
Yep. And he's a
And
he's a
you think
top
about it, I gave him a
16.
second round pick of a draft that just happened. We know that second round picks are pretty damn valuable in this league, right? And then two transition tag guys who are going to score points that he's going to be able to move for picks if he wants to move on with them, right? Like, so
Yep.
I think he kind of cleaned up with me with free money. But in the end, I was like, that price tag that he got Connor for, I'm like, all day. I got to figure it out, you know? Because also, I didn't feel comfortable. I figured I would find a way to be comfortable through the draft and the auction to be like, running backs feel like there's at least damage control and I can figure it out. And it didn't happen for me. So just had to
Yeah.
make the moves.
And he's got a lot of flexibility in what he can do this year. I would say he's in the top half of the league already, and he's got a bunch of people on his taxi squad. He's got pieces that, if they're hitting, he can score points with on his current roster. He's got some rookies, like I said, that he can activate and put into the roster if they're performing. And then he also has the flexibility of just trading pieces off and collecting more draft capital for next year for a 4-year cycle. So I really like what Warren did. Again, giving him credit. And then I also think Vito has done a really, really good job, the
Yeah.
commish, of building his team back up. If you look at his
Savvy
roster,
vets, man. These savvy vets.
he got Josh Metellus for $90. He spent 199 a piece on Milano and Bentley, which he was struggling at that LB position. So he paid
Super
definitely a lot of
cheap.
money.
Good prices for
And then
those guys. Really good.
you got the Denver quarterback, who's a rookie, and picked by the coach to be the guy for $1. So I thought Vito used his money wisely. He spent up for the guys that were impact players to try to compete this year, and I think again he's gone from bottom 5, 10 in the league over the last 2 years. I think I can't really remember for sure, but he's back in a position now this year to compete, and moving forward, I think his roster is very strong. So those are a couple of the highlights that I saw.
Hey man, those guys got lucky in the auction. One of the most aggressive auction bidders just took himself out of the whole fucking auction day one.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's a whole other thing. And there's a couple people that are late to
But it
the
was
party.
quite a waterfall effect when you don't have aggressive guys who are willing to bid up guys who are like, that's too cheap. It's got to get more expensive. When people don't
Yeah.
have money that are willing to do that, you get these prices that happen. I thought we'll get into it, but like, man, I thought a lot of guys went cheap, man.
Well, I think
A lot
that's a
of
good
guys.
point too, Ben. Like overall strategy is like I think you have to get in early and hot. I can't stand it when people come into the auction like, you know,
2 days in,
12
they're
hours
just
in, 2 days.
bidding
It's
up the
like,
backups.
chill. And it's like there were some people that came in and like started bidding up players. I had like $300 and I bid up everybody that I thought was going cheap because you can't allow a competitor to get someone cheap, even if it's not a position of need. You have to drive the prices up in order for people to spend their money so you can get the guys that you want. So if you don't get in there early and you're not active and you're not pushing, and you let guys go for cheap, I think it's just it's kind of uh, I don't know. It's just not frustrating, but it's just I don't understand the concept of that.
Well,
People
it's
showing up
crazy because
late. And,
that's where it starts, right? And then if you don't have money, you're at the mercy of what happens up there
yeah,
and when it happens, right? So when it's not happening and everyone's going cheap early, and all of a sudden backup linebackers are going for the same price the first linebacker went for, you're just like, what the fuck? Like, you know?
well, I had no desire to get at someone like a Mostert or whatever, but like if Mostert was going for $240, I'm putting $240 in on Mostert, like because I don't care about the other
Period.
60. If
And
I want
Connor, 223, it's like, what?
or 234, I
Like,
think. But yeah, it's like
or
I'm
whatever,
going
yeah.
to spend 234 on those guys. Like, and I don't care if I get stuck with them because that guy is going to score me at least 12 to 15 points a game if he stays healthy. So why would I not do that and take my, like so again, I think when you get down into the second, fourth day of the auction, like you're okay, yeah, you might be able to find some bargains, but you're not really getting impact players. You're getting lucky.
Also,
And so
this
I just
league,
think
man, like it is not often because of how long you can keep these guys and how long this league's been around, man. It's not often that there's great free agents available. Like when I say
right.
great, I mean dudes who start or are number one on their team, right? Like
Right.
Moss, Connor, Mosert. It's just like, dude, those guys should be $300+ without even thinking about it, right? And none of them
Absolutely.
went that high. And then
Moss was the most
the
expensive
wide
at 300.
receivers didn't go as high as I thought they should have. And then it was just like, who the fuck is everyone waiting to spend their money on?
There's zero reason for Stefan Diggs to go for what 365 and then someone like Mostert to go for 248 if there's a competitor that wants one of those guys, like, and then maybe the competitors don't have as much money, but like to me
But
those are
not
no
even
brainers.
that, Corey.
I
It's
thought
like you got Stephon Diggs, and then you have like the next tier of wide receivers is like half.
go to the detailed thing so and sort it
I'm
by
in
the cost of filter it by cost
by
so you can
cost. All
see.
right,
Yeah, yeah,
winning
so then
bid.
you can write it up
Oh,
here
you
player
can
name.
see all my bids. This is nasty. You guys can't be looking at my bids. You can see how much money I had over everyone.
Oh, I didn't know you could do that. All right, I'm not
Yeah,
seeing it.
it shows what my proxy bid was.
Oh, I didn't.
I'm getting
Oh,
set up
when
here.
you want a guy, right? When you want a guy and it shows your proxy.
It'll show how much I had bid on them, how much I won them for.
Well,
So
you can just we can use the editing team post pod to
yeah,
do it.
yeah. They're on
So
standby.
one of the things that I broke down was there were nine linebackers that went for over $151. None of those nine linebackers were in the top 15 last year in points scored, and their average age was 29 years old. So
Yeah,
the reason why
gross.
I did that is because I was like, okay, nobody wants Demario Davis on a 1 year contract who was 162 and he was a top 12 linebacker last year. He's 34 years old. That's fine. I couldn't get a third round pick for Demario Davis. I'm so happy that I kept him and he signed a 2 year deal because like to me that's like what's the difference between Eric Kendricks for 191 and Demario Davis? Eric Kendricks is 32 years old. He wasn't a top 15 linebacker last year.
You know
Now he's in
what?
Dallas. It could be different, blah blah blah. But I'm just saying, like, you can't. That another point that I'm trying to make is now go back to the conversation we just had about the draft. Why take a dart throw Luke McCaffrey at fucking 127 when you can have a stud linebacker for $30 for the next, under $50 for the next 5 years? Like to me, those are strategies that are absolutely um I don't know. I think that's where people fail. But
All right.
yeah,
Well, I'm gonna say this. I have to backtrack because I was thinking about these guys' prices in another league. I totally forgot when we were. I was like, yeah,
yeah,
that was cheap, right?
199.
Like I wasn't looking. I think Vito had a terrible auction. I forgot that he spent $600 on three washed up linebackers or coming back from injury. Like,
But
I,
he's in position, Ben, to win this year because he's if two of those guys,
okay.
Bentley's going to play, he's going to score point. Milano
They're
is
all going to
arguably
score points. They're all going to score
okay.
points. You're right.
So I don't think that's a bad strategy at all. If you look at his running backs, he's got 3 running backs, he's got wide receivers, he's got defensive ends. He needed linebackers, so he went and bought the 3 best ones in the fucking auction. Like he's now in a position to not only make the playoffs, but probably make a push if he gets a little bit lucky with some of his younger players. And like, so I don't, I
I don't think
personally,
they're the three best, but that's debatable.
well, I mean, he spent a shit ton of money on linebackers, and he just said, "Well, these are the ones that are historically the best, right? Like not
Yeah.
top 15, but he went and got 3 guys that he can start and play, and that's one of the positions that is the hardest to fill.
Like
And
for me, like when I go down this list, and it's like outside of Bentley, if he like pops and he's a franchise guy, you're not franchising Milano or Kendricks. So it's just
Milano's
like
29 years old and a top 10 running linebacker. If he comes back to health and they
if
need
he's
him,
what he was before, he had a
yeah,
bad injury,
absolutely.
man.
I would franchise tag him without a question.
If he
Next year.
performs,
Correct. And if he doesn't, you get your
like
$200 back, right? So I mean, like, I don't know. I mean,
every one of these guys had shit didn't score a lot of points last year because they were hurt or in bad
yeah,
spots or both. Right? So it's like, okay, that's weighted risk at $200. Where you're like Alex Hazzaloni, if you want a 1 year dart, like, I mean, let those Goldilocks flow with all those tackles for $30 cheaper. Shaq Thompson, man, I know I'm slapping a franchise tag on him probably. I don't know. I like KJ Britt flyer for 150 is so aggro, but he's
he's
like
25.
24, 25. Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's
he's
like
25 years old. Yeah,
that's a great high upside play that like he starts this year. The worst case is he loses his job and he's done. And then you move on. Well, I didn't see how many years he signed him for. I hope he only signed him for one because that's a guy you would just want a franchise tag, right?
absolutely. Yeah, because he's
Wait and
young enough.
see.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know
You don't want a
exactly.
Brian Asamoah situation, right? And you're like
I mean,
assuming he's starting, and then all of a sudden training camp happens, and he's not nowhere to be seen.
Jack Gibbons was, I think, I mean,
Yeah, Gibbons,
156.
dude, crazy.
156 is a lot of money. I mean,
No job
but
security. But
no
Shaq
job
Thompson
security.
is the best deal of the linebackers, in my opinion.
I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that too.
He is the most long term value that shouldn't change, unless he's like if he's getting washed like these other guys, then maybe I'm wrong. But like we moved on from Kendricks 2 years ago because he was washed. I get he's playing for the Cowboys and our boy Zimmer, so he'll be probably as good as he needs to be this year, but not if he's lost as many steps as he has since Zimmer coached him. You
Right.
know, I don't know.
What other steals of the auction do you feel like like individual players, not necessarily owners, but
Bro, the tight ends were wow. And I started having, I have Kelsey, but I'm like, dude, I'm bidding on, no, I had Kelsey and Conklin at the time. It's like the least thing I needed. And they were going the cheapest. So it's just like, I got to get in. So I got like Ertz for nothing. I got, Kittle's backup Thomas, who that might even still get work. I mean, nothing, like $23. Like that position is so expensive normally. Right?
but I think there's been a pivot in the tight end position. You're seeing tight ends go much earlier. Like you would get a lot of shit for taking a tight end in the top 10, before last
You
year,
mean in
right? Like, but
drafts?
correct. But so I'm saying like now having to spend $177 on Hunter Henry, like, well, I'm sure that having a Sam Laporta or Brock Bowers 1.5, 119, Dalton Kincaid probably in the top 12 in the draft last year as well. Like, I think I'm okay with those $40 contracts for the next, $40 to $60 contracts for the next 5 years. So, and you can start 2 tight ends. So if you get one, I think Vito has Sam Laporta and fucking the dude from Arizona. Like those are,
McBride, yeah.
Yeah, you're getting 12 points a game from 2 positions that you can start instead of having a wide receiver in that spot or a running back. Like to me, that's
Yeah, but
again,
there's only
you're getting
32. There's 32 teams, Corey, and there's probably like 32 startable tight ends. That's why they should be expensive. I agree with you that people, but to your point, people are stacking multiple tight ends, starting tight
Yeah.
ends. So what are the people with no tight ends doing?
Yeah.
Not
No, I mean,
scoring?
and that was the whole reason why I made that deal with you
And who the
for
hell couldn't afford Tyler Higbee for $44? I have
yeah,
no
I
idea
mean,
how Argo won Tyler Higbee for $44. I couldn't wrap my head around it. It was like this gap where I was like doing something that I just missed, like this whole section of all this stuff. Like he won a couple cheap players, and there's a bunch of cheap guys that went, and I was a little embarrassed, even though he's my boy.
well,
I'm
he
like,
was
dude, Argo, I can't let you get
yeah.
Higbee for
He he
$44. How did I fuck that up? Jesus.
he might have gone either before. So I had my eyes on Taysom Hill, thinking that he might convert to the running back position halfway through the year, which would have been an absolute steal for 129 because he's going to get 6 to 8 touchdowns or whatever, right? Like, and you're going to get points when he throws the ball, you're going to get points when he catches the ball, blah blah. So I really like the value of Taysom Hill at 129. But I think Argo got him when I was either bidding up Taysom Hill and trying to get him, and I'm just like, well, I can't put my money on both of them, and so definitely was on my register as well. Just couldn't get it done. So, um, but that was the whole reason why, Ben, I went and got Gesicki with that deal with you for $50, like for 1 year. I was just like, hey man, like if Gesicki catches 3 to 4 passes a game from Burrow for 1 year, like I can start him every week. And like that was to me like a big part of what the deal we made was like I need to turn Daniel Hunter's production into 3 or 4 guys. And it'll probably end up fucking costing me. I end up getting an end the actual pick that you got me for the Bears end that could probably start for the Bears this year. Thank you, Ben, for pointing that out. And so like it's just those type of decisions that how you use your
Good
capital
pick,
and how
Corey.
you kind of build your team in order to get 10 to 12 points per roster spot or per starting lineup spot. So very, very interesting stuff for sure.
Yeah, and like,
Jonas
I don't know.
Smith in Miami
Like
for
to your point of
$45,
like
cheap.
what
Jonas Smith
yeah, but
is cheap.
even trading in the off season, and it's like you look at that Gasecki contract and you're like, oh, that's cheap ish. But then you're like, man, it's really cheap when Hunter Henry's going for 170. But again, like everyone who
Yeah.
needed a tight end went super hard at tight end. And then everyone just quit. And I got Zach Ertz for what? John Juice Smith, $45? What
Right. That's
in
cheap.
the
I just
actual
said
fuck?
I just said that in Miami, right? I mean,
Oh yeah,
one
yeah.
of the
Sorry, I didn't hear it. Yeah, man. Like, but like, dude, these are not backups. These are
well, yeah.
starters
Even look at
in good offenses.
Charlie Warner for $13. Like fucking, they're gonna put Pitts at wide receiver. Pitts is a wide receiver, so they're gonna have Warner in on 11-man personnel for $13. That guy could get 7 points a game this year. Like that's a fucking great pick. Like that's a great number for a guy that you can put into your lineup on bye weeks or whatever as a suitable 7 to maybe he scratches a couple weeks. So what? It's like for $13, I'll
Yeah.
take that all day. So quite a few any other winners or values that you really liked out of the auction? We can move on
Those
to
running
something
backs
else
up
if
at
you'd
the
like.
top, and I think the running backs at the top, and then the tight ends were the ones that were like I couldn't really understand. There was some good value in those like wide receiver fours that are competing for roles. I noticed I kind of overpaid for a couple of them in what I thought I was gonna have to pay for how cheap I saw other ones going. But like Zay Jones for $60, bro. Like all
I think
day.
that's a win.
Are you
That's a win.
joking me?
Yeah.
I mean,
I
I
mean,
saw you get that. I was like, well, I'm like, because I wasn't being aggressive with my money at wide receiver for guys I just didn't think I would be able to contend for, right? Like I wasn't
right.
willing to pay $100 for a wide receiver. So a guy like Zay Jones, it's like, well, you put up a C note or fucking call it a day. And I'm like, I don't know, I'm gonna go bargain basement. But also at the time that all this is happening, I'm trying to get other positions, and all my money's locked up getting otother positions. And then you know how these auctions go. Like you get outbid on all of them, all these deals go, and you just fucking hate yourself because
It's
you
it's
know,
possible. It's possible that I return $2 to 2 points per dollar on Zay Jones. And like to me, that's a win. So if I get 120 points out of Zay Jones, that's a fucking
hey,
steal.
you guys can see all my bids. This is well, you
Well,
see
we were
I
going at it
40.
for we were going at it for Trenton Irwin. We were going at it for Mac Hollins. Like those were guys that I had targeted. Here's another point that I would make
Yeah,
to some of the newer guys too. If you sign a guy for $5, and whatever, sign him for 3 years. Don't sign him for a fucking year because you can drop that.
five,
Yeah, well, and I made that mistake
five.
last year. I had Trenton Irwin last year for $5. Like now he's 47 the next year. Any guy that I signed for $1, like you know, Montgomery or whatever, 5-year contracts. Because if they hit, so be it. If they don't, fucking cut them in year 2 and fucking lose your $2.40 or whatever it is. It's like, and I made that mistake early, and like now I'm learning. It's just like don't fucking worry about the 5-year contract on cheap contracts because
I'm
man,
pretty
if they
sure
hit, they're
5-year
fucking
contracts, and this was in extreme cases, but like I think 5-year contracts have holdout anonymity for 2 years. I need to confirm that, but I think you don't. Like if you get sign a guy for 5 years, if you sign him for 4 or less, I think you get 1 year anonymity from holdout, and then of 5 years, I think you get two. I'm going to confirm this. Call me out if I'm wrong on a message board. I'm fine with it. I could be mixing up extensions, 5-year extensions for 5-year contracts. So I apologize if I'm wrong, but I know 5-year contracts give you better exemptions against holdouts. It's either extensions or contracts. I
I
think it's
liked
contracts.
I like the Lavisca Chenault for 60. It got too high for me. I had him probably in the $40 range, 45. But like
Yeah.
God, just a fucking young, athletic, fucking kick returner, possibly like guy that they can put in and gadget shit. Like I love that pick. Um,
Hey
you
man,
know, the
Ray
Rayleigh,
Ray returning
Rayleigh,
kicks for $26, dude.
and I actually made a
Nice
trade for
lockup.
Ray with the Jameson, JJ and Jameson and Ray for T Higgins, basically. Which whatever, we'll see if it works out. But like again, another cheap player that's on a 2-year deal. If he works out, that's gold, And if he gets me 100 points, 120 points, like I'm happy. So um a lot of deals to be had late for sure. I think you get in aggressive, get the guys you want, save a little bit of money, and then be patient. The other thing that we need to talk about a little bit with the auction is these fuckers that are sitting back and just waiting and not nominating. That shit drives me crazy. It needs to be monitored way better.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah. I
I'm
don't
over
like
that
that.
shit, man. Like I'm over it. Like
I
if
don't
you're in
like it.
there and there should be hard, fast rules that you can't sit back and wait because that's not the way this is supposed to go. You got to nominate and
Yeah,
you got to be active or you're fucking out. And there should be a
yeah.
24 to 36 hour fucking window. And the commission needs to do a better job, Dan, please, monitoring that throughout the fucking auction. It just has to happen. Like it's not
I don't know if
acceptable.
he has access. Maybe he has access
He
to
does.
see who's nominated what. I don't
He
know if the
does.
commissioner has access for that, but
He does. He does. It happened.
uh,
It was in LOEG, John was able to pinpoint who hadn't been doing it. Like it's the information's there
oh
to
yeah, okay, wow.
yeah. So I think that just needs to be worked out. It's like this shit's serious. The auction's a fucking bloodbath, man. And it's like it can make or break people's seasons. And it's like you can't just sit back and not be a part of it and then just wait till the end and like, collect all the easy money towards the end of the auction because
Well,
people are
I'll
blood.
call out another thing, and this is like it's I guess savvy because it's, you know, a play that's legal. But to your point, it shouldn't be because you should have to nominate guys in order to bid on guys. And the
Yep.
worst that happens is you wait and wait and wait and wait and wait almost the end of these auctions. And
Yep.
then you start nominating guys, and guys who have nobody nominated just wait for somebody to nominate somebody and they're like, hey, I know Ben knows defensive players. I'm just gonna bid on him.
Right.
So guess what I
Right.
did? I started nominating pieces of shit. And guess how many of them got stolen? All of them.
80, yeah,
Amazing.
90%. Yeah.
These
Yep.
fucking fifth string linebackers, suck it and take it. It's all yours.
I like
I got you.
the-
I got you on my scent, BC. Can't just snipe my guys just because I nominate them anymore.
I like the Jalen Guyton for $8. Like another guy that's like, fucking
Yeah.
he's got 4 to
Odell
5 touchdowns.
Beckham for 71. I know he's slowed down or whatever, but like, dude, that's a good offense. I feel like that
What
can
about
return value.
what about this Nico Remigio going for $34 in BC when I got him for 1 and nobody who fucking had an idea who he was, and then all of a sudden now he's going for 40 or $34 in other leagues. Like I think he went for $24 in fucking CK a week after I got him for 1 in LOEG. It's just like stuff like that, man. It's like you got to watch the other drafts. You got to see who's people are kind of getting information on, and if you respect their game, you gotta. Nothing comes easy. John Ross
I
for
think if
25.
you don't want to do extensive homework and you know who does, and you just wait for them to nominate guys and then Google them, it's a good strategy. I think y'all are fucking lazy and bitches, but it's a good strategy.
I
let
like
me
Stu.
let me listen to 10,000 hours of podcasts while you just play with your
Correct.
fucking families and go out to the clubs and then just steal all my guys. No problem.
Justin Watson's another guy that I didn't sign to a long-term contract. I think I had him for like $4 last year and signed him to like
Yeah,
a
man.
1-year deal. It's just stupid. And then I like Drake Stoops for $12. Put him on your taxi squad and see what happens in LA. Anyway, anything else on the auction? We can move to the top 10 now if you're ready.
Top 10
Who we think is in the top
contenders.
10? Yeah, top 10 contenders.
Okay. Not me. I'm a year away.
Yeah. I'll go through my list if you want me to start it off. Or if you
Hold
want to
on.
go,
Hold on. Hold on. This is what we need to do right now.
All right. I need to go grab a
Live.
I need to go
No,
grab a
no,
cocktail.
wait, real quick. You have to watch what I'm doing.
Who are you
Oops.
talking to? Who's this Georgia Warhouse guy? Is he someone that's important?
I spelled his name wrong. Jesus, I
No.
need a couple more cocktails. I'm fucking coming unglued here. Supposed to go get tacos after this with margaritas. Can't fucking wait for that tequila. Fuck you. This guy, go look at the chat. He's gonna be like, why did you do that? We just
man.
trolled somebody on our league chat live on the pod. First time ever. Have
It's
a drink,
just-
Corey. Go make a cocktail.
You can start with your top 10. I'll catch up with you real quick if you want, or you can just pause it and we can record again. I don't care. I just need to
Go ahead. Go ahead. Oh, you
I'll just
can
grab
pause it, huh? Just go get a cocktail. You'll be fine. Just leave me with these guys with my mumbling ass. Oh. Well, who made the post of the front runners? One of the HHs, I think. Yes. Highland Town. Harley Quinns. I do not like that Hawktua Pete changed his name to Hawktua Pete. I think it's fucking bitch shit. You keep your fucking name always. Unless you're like Vito is the only person who changed a name that I thought was absolutely perfect. Corey Hahn, former Sal Parisio, changing his name is trash. Straight trash. He's saying that while he's gone. Now that you all know, don't change your name. Why? I love your names, all of them. Although somebody did change their name once from something we said on the pod, I think. What was that? I don't know. But I do kind of agree with these. These are strong teams. Mandy, Penn State, I think, are at the top of my rankings. I think Sin has built a very strong roster. Sin, you coming along, my man. I feel like you're really gonna get in there this year. Uh the artist formerly known as Sal Parisio is obviously the returning champ. He's gonna be in there as well. I don't know if I have Beefy in my top 10. Let's just get to the rosters. I think Argo is sneakily somehow not last place. He's like his team is probably better than mine now all of a sudden. I don't know how he turned it around. Getting a $44 fucking starting tight end probably didn't hurt. So Corey, before I was at the HH list that he posted, I I think I
Yeah,
agree with all his players there. Uh, I
I
don't
have a
agree
couple
with you
different ones.
changing your name, but I addressed
Yeah,
that while you were gone.
I heard
Um,
that. So it's the first time I've ever changed my name. I was a little bit um ooh, I didn't know if I wanted to do it. I thought it was super funny. Hawk to a Pete. The Pete is just repeat. Like so, I was just like, and I'm a Hawkeye, so I just thought it was like kind of fun. And it's like if I happen to win it again, I will put my banner back up as Sal Paradis, so it won't be Hawk to a Pete, and I might even change it back during the year. But just just living freely this year as the only undefeated blue chip champ in the history of the league. But don't need to mention that. So here's the top eight that I have, and I have divided it into two categories. I have
I might
Mandy.
change my name to Corey's name sucks.
That's fine. I have Mandy, myself, Penn State, Lazy Bears in a class kind of by themselves, and then I have Beefy, Sin City, Bishop Down, who happens to be my brother, and then Vito, who I think is kind of my wild card pick for this year. And then I have Risers as Argo, Bad Boys, Last Great American Dynasty, and Fleece. So that's kind of how I broke it down. The ones that I left off were
You got me bottom
Hometown.
five. Where you got me? You told me my team's ass, so I figured it
Honestly,
was gonna
I
be.
didn't look at your team too much, to be honest with you. I
Oh,
wasn't
good,
too
good. We don't
concerned
need
with
it.
it. So all those teams that I mentioned in the top eight, specifically the top four, I think have the same amount of depth that they had last year. Um, they're kind of strong at every position. And then the other thing is,
You have
we were talking about.
Wildcats in your list?
I do not have Wildcats in my list. No.
Really? He's in my top 10.
Uh,
Uh,
what
I think he's
what
got it. I
wide receiver does he have that's going to score points other than Dotson? Maybe. What tight end does he have that's going to score points?
um
I don't think he has a starting. I don't think he has four positional players in that would score more than on average 10 points a game. That's why I kept him off.
okay. We have different opinions on players. I don't think
So
those guys are not gonna have.
go back to his wide
You
receivers and
think
tell me
so you think the rookie's starting in Carolina at tight end?
Tommy Tremble. You think is going to score 10 points a
No,
game?
Tommy Treble's the starter. But you
Okay,
think the
well,
rookie
fine.
they just drafted is going to play over him?
I
Like
think
you're
that
saying, like he's got nobody. It's just it's not true.
well, I
Like,
mean, I said
but
I don't. Hmm. What I said is go to his wide receivers because I looked at Wildcats. Name
KJ
three wide
Osborne
receivers.
is going
Three.
is KJ Osborne's going to start for the Patriots.
Okay, I look at it as does he have three wide receivers that are going to average 10 points a game? He doesn't have a single wide receiver that scored 10 points a game last year on average per game.
Okay.
So my thing
John
is
Dotson's
that's a
a
pivotal
breakout
position.
candidate. Okay.
I agree.
Fair
So
enough.
Dotson would be the one. And so that's where I'm like, I need to see strong wide receivers on any contending team because I think that's where on offense you're going to score the most points and have the most
Oh, so
opportunity for
you
explosion.
rate teams by their wide
If you look,
receivers. I got that.
I went systematically through. Okay, every person in the top 10. Also, we'll talk about this in the RB or not to be. 7 of the 8 teams in that are all have at least 2 running backs that scored over 100 points a game. 7 of the 8. So there is a direct correlation between having running backs that score points, and then that's kind of the second tier. I look at the wide receiver strength first, the linebacker strength, and then I go to the running backs and see, okay, blah, blah, blah. Then I go to defensive ends, then I go to safeties. Like that's how I broke the teams down. And then I look at depth at all those positions. And like I'm looking for teams that can score on average at least 10 to 12 points a game by position, regardless of what it, like how they get there. And I just
Not
don't
the
think that,
total that the team can score.
well, I mean, it's by 22, that's you're getting 220 points a game. Right. So I don't
But
care
if you
if
can
you're
get 20 points a game without having elite wide receivers, your team still ass?
no, absolutely not. That's how
Oh,
I
okay.
mechanically go through it. And so, I
I'm just
just,
trying to build a
listen,
championship roster.
I didn't
You're the
spend
only one with the belt. You're the
I
only
didn't
one with the
spend 2
belt,
hours
baby.
on looking at everybody's team. I kind of, picked off the top a little bit, but
I wouldn't
I,
expect you to either.
I threw a
I
couple
like
wild cards.
Wildcats.
Okay, well, maybe maybe he's someone that could look as a riser. I think I don't like the fact that he's in the competition still has $250 worth of cap or whatever it is, but
Yeah,
you
I
know,
don't like that at all either. That's actually infuriating considering how good his base roster is.
I mean, look
Sigh.
at linebackers. He doesn't have a single linebacker that scored over 100 points other than Willie Gay. Like, I mean, I don't think you can win with that linebacker crew. I'm just sorry. I don't think you can. Look at his defensive ends. I'm not
Yeah,
trying to pick.
they're good. They're
Yeah, his
very
defense.
good.
Yeah, his defense is good.
Very
Okay.
good.
So I mean, you ain't winning with those linebackers,
Yeah.
and you're not winning with those wide receivers. Sorry, not happening. I don't care how many points Devon A-Chain scores. Not happening.
Okay.
So I don't know. I think it's a lot of the same. I think Beefy's done a really good job in his first 2 years. He's a very savvy dude. Like we haven't heard a lot from Brad. I hope he's not getting kind of sick of all the nonsense that sometimes goes on in this league.
Oh.
I think my brother did pretty good in the auction for his first auction. Like not ever playing in one of these leagues
Your brother did
before.
do good.
Yeah, I mean he got some.
I take it back. Beefy's definitely in the top 10. I said I didn't
Beefy's
think he
100%
was because I'd looked at it before. He's definitely strong.
Yeah. He's got 2 solid running backs, then Dylan, and then he's got, decent wide receiver play. I mean, he's solid top to bottom. I think he's probably the closest to moving into that top 5 or 6. The one that I left off was I think hometown. I think Highland had hometown in there. I don't see it. But I could be missing something. So let's look at hometown because he's been competitive the last couple years. I mean, Penn State's definitely in the top 5. There's not even a question.
What about this guy?
I don't know who that is.
By the way, Georgia, you get way too much attention on this podcast, and it pisses Corey off, and that's why I'm doing it. That's why I trolled you in the chat. That's why I'm going to keep the dream alive.
I just prefer to talk about people that are actually competitive and bring something of a value to the league other than complete nonsense and yelling at the
See,
commission.
this is content, Corey. This is great content.
No, it's fine.
How dare you try and deny our league of this great content?
Let's be honest. I'm not talking about Abe Froman's team today, and so why would I talk about Georgia's team? I
Yeah.
don't, not relevant to me. But good job getting AJ Brown. I hope that pays dividends to you in your championship contention over the next 5 years.
Sorry to go back in history, but we didn't touch on, you touched on one quarterback that went, and I really was curious how high this Baltimore Ravens quarterback was going to go. And I thought $111 was
Pretty cheap.
lovely.
Yeah,
Well,
pretty
because
cheap.
no quarterbacks are expensive.
Right.
That's a cheap franchise tag, man. It's probably going to be what, $65 next year? Like, fuck, dude.
So a 488 points at $111. Now look at Denver Broncos Vito's team real quick and see what that person scored last year with Russell Wilson. Okay. So 488 minus, I'd say like what, 285 maybe? No, 402. Okay, so $68 difference was Russell Wilson. So no, I'm sorry, $86 difference for $110 in cap. So that's where the question starts. So
I believe you in this league, and this is obviously, so I have all the best advice in this league. I just don't take it myself. You should only have $1 quarterbacks. Like, it was great with having Trevor Lawrence for $1 until I didn't extend him and had to franchise him, and now he's too expensive and I hate it. You should only have $1 or elite expensive quarterbacks. But the middle road sucks. I agree with you. But Lamar Jackson, that's like a 488 was a down year, dude. Like, I don't know.
I think that was his worst fantasy year ever. So other than his rookie season, I think.
Yeah, so, pretty good floor. Pretty good floor.
So, I mean, you're gonna get points, and you're gonna be up on everybody.
What about Kenny Pickett over here at 308?
Well, that's Russell now, or Justin Fields. I imagine that number is going to go up. I mean, I don't know. I'm very happy to have Caleb Williams on a franchise tag for the next 3 years. That's all I can say.
Franchise tag.
Yeah.
Because you paid for him. Oh, you franchised him this year.
I had Fields last year, and then got lucky that we got Caleb. So I franchised tag him.
I'll go on record, and I'll tell you that's bad because I have that with Trevor Lawrence, and unless they're Apex Elite, it just feels shitty. It just feels like everyone else has a cheaper quarterback or everyone has a better quarterback. But if Caleb Williams,
for $48. I have him for $48. Cool. Yeah, I'll take it.
All right. I know you are already counting chickens that he is the next, I don't know, combination of Michael Vick and Peyton Manning. But, I mean, let's see how he is.
All right, so let's do this a little bit systemically. So let's look at Sin City's team because I called him out. He wasn't on the original list. If you don't mind pulling his team up. And I just want to give him a little bit of props. Let's look at his roster.
All right. Sorry, I got kids and dogs running in here.
That's all right.
Sorry. Sin City.
Right there, right? Oh, no. There.
Sin City's right here?
Yeah, let me assess this real quick. So, Vikings quarterback Young, $2 salary, 5 years. Perfect contract. Travis Etienne, top-notch running back. Jalen Wright, top rookie. Vidal, a flyer. Najee, probably going to be better this year.
I was like, you can't yada over Najee Harris.
Solid running backs. Probably the best, in my opinion, one of the best teams in running backs in the league. Jordan Addison, Jalen Waddle.
Jordan Addison got a Dewey. He got a Dewey yesterday.
He's trending in the wrong direction as far as his
fucking clown.
So maybe a little weak at wide receiver from a depth perspective, but he has 2 studs. Okay, then he has a stud tight end, stud tight end, and another tight end, and another one that he can fill in, and then he blah blah blah. So then let's look at his defensive tackles. Don't care. He's got 2 solid defensive ends, I would say. He's got Britt that he paid up for. He's got Cooper, the young linebacker, Christian Harris on a cheap contract. Trevin Wallace he's drafted. I think pretty solid. I don't know why he would gave Rosenblum a 2-year contract, but it probably worked out for him. And then he's got solid safety. So I think
You
he's
mean
got a
last
pretty
year?
deep roster. I would say the only knock, huh?
Why he gave him a 2-year contract last year?
Yeah, I mean
Yeah,
that's a
because
wild card hit.
he was not the starter, and
I know,
he is the starter. He's just not he's like a
but he signed him to
67%.
2 years, not knowing he was going to be the starter, like because it was
Last
preseason.
year?
Rosenblum wasn't the starter last year. He was a fucking backup, wasn't he?
No, he was the
No.
presumed starter last year. That's why he went
When
for
did
the
he sign that
price that he
contract?
did.
All right.
There was some competition, but
So I like
but
Sin's
then
roster. He's making a push. I think if things go well for him and Pitts plays well, and he's got some running back depth, I think he's moving the right direction. So let's look at
a lot of asterisk players here, Corey. A lot of asterisk players.
we'll get to that. Let's go to Vito. I think Vito's probably been one of the best builds that I've seen.
Fucking
I'm
Vito.
a little jealous of
He
his
already
team.
has 2 belts. Stop building good teams, dickhead.
All right, Jonathan Taylor, Tajay Spears, and Jonathan Brooks, 3 decent running backs, probably 2 studs and a third that obviously can start. He's got Tank Dell, stud, Troy Franklin, wild card, Deontay Johnson, probably a stud. He's got Xavier Legette, probably needs a little bit more depth at wide receiver, but he can probably find it. He's got 2 fucking absolute stud fucking tight ends.
I'd
I'm so
talk up
jealous.
A.T. Perry, but I want to trade for him in other leagues, so I don't know.
I missed Sam Laporta by 1 pick last year, Vito. Fuck off for not trading me to him right after the draft. I was so pissed. I tried to give everything away for it. Then he's
That's
got
Brian Robinson
look at
for
this
me this
defensive
year.
ends. Wow, not bad. Yep. I love Brian Robinson. Bentley, he paid up for the 3 linebackers, so he's now solid, presumably, if those guys perform, their old asses. And then he's got
Yeah, it really makes
safeties.
sense when you see he had 0 starting linebackers, that why he went so big, right?
Absolutely. That was his real weak
So
spot. He was solid everywhere else, and he just paid.
$600 well spent. I'll
I will
stand
go out on a
corrected.
limb and say that he's making the playoffs this year. Absolutely. Not even I don't even think it's a
Dude, I
question.
think his team's too. He would have to be ravaged by injuries not to make the playoffs.
Yeah. And then let's look at who I think is probably the front runner again, Mandy, who probably
Yeah.
we can look at Mandy, but the other ones that were probably left off are like Dominion. I wanted to look at Hometown Heroes because the Hometown Heroes was on Highland's list, and I didn't put him on my list, and I want to get your opinion on that. So not a fan of the quarterback. Not a fan of the quarterback. Singletary's his only fucking running back. Okay, that's a knock for me. I don't see anybody else there that in Singletary. We'll see, but I don't know. He's got Hopkins, old ass. He's got Mooney, who I like. He's got Pickens, and he's got Rashid Shaheed, which is good. He's got a solid tight end group. I mean, relatively speaking, not solid, middle of the pack, I would say.
Yeah.
He's got a good defensive tackle unit. He's got decent defensive ends, and then he's got good linebackers. So, I think he's a fringe. If I had 12 people on my list, he'd probably be right there, 12 or 13. But I didn't put him in the top 8, and I didn't, and I just did top 8, and then I had like 4 risers that I thought could probably sneak into the top 12 this year.
Boy, this is just so sexy right here.
Yeah.
Getting that 301 Diablo when you knew he was a safety going to play linebacker, and now he's an actual linebacker. Just
I like that dude.
Kiss to that play. And I know he, the savvy thing was to draft these guys that were these safety hybrids, hoping they would go to linebacker. You did that, right, with Matu?
Yeah, I got Matu that way too. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see if that works out.
When he did that, I was like, that's 301's too high for the safety. But if he plays a linebacker box roll safety, he's going to be awesome. If he's a linebacker and gets changed to linebacker, then it's like printing.
Does he have anybody on his taxi squad? I don't think he does.
Yep.
No. Anybody that's going to actually be relevant. Not that I see, yeah.
Who does? You got to keep those guys on your roster.
All right, let's analyze our rosters and then we'll be done with this segment because it is what it is. Like this is probably the
Hey,
least
I accidentally put this for 2 hours. Oh, is it gonna end?
No, I don't think so. You can
Oh,
go
okay,
over.
good.
Yeah.
All right, just want to be sure. If we get cut off at 7 on the dot, you'll know what it is. Our rosters. Let's go over yours first, Mr. Sal.
Not much
Sorry.
has changed. I can't get anybody to make deals with me, so I'm just kind of stuck where I'm at.
Not much has changed. Just champing at the bit with my championship belt.
Gonna have to get lucky.
Oh, sorry, I clicked myself on accident first, so I guess we're doing
That's
me
fine.
first.
Let's look at yours.
There you go, Corey.
Well, I like your running backs. You have two.
Yes. So,
That's
if you want to talk about the James Conner trade,
I didn't remember that happened. Must have been on vacation when that happened.
Yeah, you told me you didn't like it because I gave up Guerrero, Conklin, and Guerrero,
I don't know.
whatever, the San Francisco running back,
the guy that's going to
be Jeff.
The guy,
he's replacing Kyle Youssef whenever. He's my most hated draft pick. I hated drafting that guy. But at the value at running back was depleted, and he's the only dude who was like, at least I know people value him. Now he's not on my team, and fuck him.
Well, I got Schrader.
But who knows? I could be wrong.
I got Schrader at 313, who I think is probably in line to be McCaffrey's backup. That's my guess, but we'll see if that happens. That was probably.
I have drafted. That was,
like, to me, like the most exciting thing that I did in any league was getting Schrader at 313 in BC, because if he hits, I'm fucking golden. And like,
I'm a total dickhead for giving you him. I considered taking him at that 303. At that 303 that I took night, and I'm like, I can get him in my next pick, and of course I didn't.
Well, that was the Daniel Hunter trade pick too, so that was interesting. But we'll see. It could be.
That was the pick I gave you.
Yeah.
Oh wow! So it's definitely a home run. He's McCaffrey's going down, and he's just going to be a beast. That's what's going to happen.
I love him. I like him. He's all right. You put him in the offense behind McCaffrey and like just let him eat. You know, I just
right.
I think
so with Connor,
between them.
With the Connor trade, I wanted to move that pick at some point for value, right? Training camp hype, whatever. But when I saw that he had Connor for that cheap, and it was like, okay, I have two guys on transition tags that do not help me next year, and I know I'm trying to compete next year.
Right.
So James Conner is a weird, in theory, pick for next year, except we don't know what Benson really is or how they want to keep him, and Connor's got 2 more years of money, so they're going to keep him.
So you would transition.
So for me, well, yeah, I get him 1 year, and then I get to see what happens. Yeah. If he's totally done, cut weight. If he's still in the mix and still they're splitting carries and it's his thing, I can keep him next year with the transition tag. So I like getting that flexibility versus getting, like, I don't know, a glorified fullback that I should have never taken in the draft, who's pissing me off every time I saw him on my roster.
Well, you got Justin Jefferson in that big deal, which was obviously interesting.
Yeah, I do think, though, that I am high on Conklin, and I'm high on the comeback for Inusuo, but again, like, I don't realistically look at my roster and being like, I'm making a belt run this year, and those guys are gone. And even if they get me in the playoffs, to move
Kelsey, though, like maybe move Kelsey for, or
you don't think he'll be relevant next year?
Probably next year, yeah. I mean, this is a make or break year for him, but I get nervous about people that are traveling the world with.
You've said that for 5 fucking years, Corey.
I know. He's my Mike Evans of the tight end unit. It's just like, I just don't think
he is. Do you
Yeah.
think Mike Evans still sucks?
No, Mike Evans has proven me wrong year over year. It's just,
So is Kelsey.
yeah,
Those
no.
are actually the two players that you always are like, they're
All
washed.
right,
I'm over
so
them.
we'll make our first bet. Do you think Kelsey finishes in the top 4 at the tight end position this year?
Why are we? Well, no, I'm not doing this.
Okay, all right. I don't think he does, but we'll see.
I'm not making a bet over like something that gives you like an 80% chance to win based off of variables that are
282
out of
points.
control of football.
That is sexy for a late second pick. I have to say that was
What's
oh,
that?
I said 282 points from Daniel Hunter last year at a late second is not bad business. I don't think
I'll give you
for
a hot take, Corey.
yeah.
I think he scores more this year.
Oof. All right, I don't think so, but we'll see.
That's my hot take. I think he hits the 300.
Wow, I hope he does. That'd be great for you. It still won't be enough for you to
Well,
compete. I don't think. But
I think with that coach and Will Anderson opposite, I also think Will Anderson is going to take it yard. Like,
he's gonna eat some badge for sure.
yeah, he's gonna eat it.
Uh, well, I mean, I think you have a strategy in place to try to compete next year. I see where you have a bunch of studs that can score any between 60 and 100 points in a week, like between 3 or 4 guys. Like that's pretty awesome,
Yeah, that helps.
And then you
That helps in this league.
you're filling it out with some depth at other positions. Like I know you have a strategy in place. I like the Latu pick. Pace is a stud, or not a stud,
Yeah.
but I mean, very good pick and serviceable. I think you're a little weak at linebacker, obviously.
Well, I got some guys on my squad, just buying time too.
You're
Again, like
you're
I
probably in
wanted to
that
get a bunch.
16 to 24.
I think that's fair, but I think if I get hot, I can make a run. It's like one of those teams that if you get those swing games that are close, you go play a powerhouse, but I got studs that I could put up 220 points any given week, but it doesn't mean I'm going to score 220 every week. So I'll need some schedule luck, but like man, I was looking at it, my schedule's so tough. Like
Yeah. Well, it's getting
I
competitive.
think I'm playing all your top 10. Like it's pretty ridiculous. My schedule that was like one of the things like especially got me onto that trade because like I kind of set up to like fringe trying to get a play. You get in the playoffs, you get lucky. Like you don't
Yeah.
the best roster doesn't win in most of the time in fantasy unless it's just full heater, right? Like
You
you
just have
got
to
to
be
get some
consistent.
luck.
Yeah.
And
You have to
yeah, but I mean, even the leagues that I have most of the belts in this stuff, like I feel like if I was going to bet, I would never bet on my team to win when I won. But
Yeah.
my team ended up getting hot, and
Just
it was
for
good.
clarity, like I 100% agree that like there was, obviously luck involved in me winning the championship last year, but I did put myself in position to be consistent and average, 200 to 220 points a game. And I think that's really what, if you're trying to compete, that's where you have to be. And, going through the schedule I went last year, like it was fucking rigid. Rigid. Like it was not an easy schedule at all.
No,
And
our division was
certainly
brutal.
yeah. So there
I
was
lost
no,
with 200 points like 5 times.
there's no way that I
Crazy.
should have gone undefeated. Like, I mean, let's just be honest. Like, extreme amount of luck involved in that. But like you
Yeah,
said, like get into the playoffs, see what happens. Beating Penn State was probably like the most crucial thing, and then like in the championship,
yeah.
like I felt pretty confident like in that game. And then if you get to buy, even better, right? Like so. Yeah. Anyway, let's not even look at my team. It's pretty much the same fucking team. No
Oh,
big
I
deal.
can go. No, let's go to your team. I'll go very on record on my team and say that if I win the belt this year, it will be very lucky.
There's zero chance you're winning the belt this year. Maybe I'll give you like 2%, but that's okay.
Can't
I
say
mean,
zero. Can't
I'll
say
say
zero.
2%. It's like you have a good
Two
you have
percent isn't zero. It's a lot more.
you have you have less of a chance of winning the belt in BC than the Bears have of winning the Super Bowl. Let's put it that way. That's my take.
Nah, not true.
And I think that's pretty fair, actually.
No,
Um,
no. I think odds makers actually have you less than 2%, but that's okay.
all right, that's fine. Let's look at the old Hawk Tua then real quick.
Yeah, sorry, my strolling games.
You gotta go up, gotta go up. You're up.
Oh yeah, you're
You
at the
had it.
top. No.
Yeah.
Sorry, I can't find the name. Used to be a really good name. Now it's, trash.
Mm-hmm. All about that 15 minutes. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's not much change. I mean, I made the trade for Jamison Williams because I can't quit him, and I just wanted something a little bit more long term than T. Higgins, and I think he's going to be pretty fucking good this year. If he doesn't score more than 160 points, I'll be very disappointed. But to be honest with you, I won last year without T. Higgins having a great year, so I thought the risk was worth it. I feel like I have some younger guys cheap guys that could fill in. I like the Zay Jones. I like, Davis being just about Dave Davis, 130 to 160 points. Like, I'm fine with that. I got
He'll he'll
Ridley,
he'll
who I
he'll
think
copy pasta he'll copy pasta that line for sure.
I don't mind Calvin Ridley. I'd move him, but I think he's probably comfortable about 200 points this year. Like, I'm fine with that. And then JMO's kind of my wild card. Like if I hit there, I'm good. I like Gesicki being a part of Cincinnati's offense. I like Freiermuth having a much bigger year than 86.8 points. So I like that upside. I got a decent tackle in Robinson in the auction for $8, and Sanders to back him up. I got Will Anderson, who I think is going to beast. I got Karl Lofkus, who I think is going to either outperform or stay quid pro quo on that. And then I don't mind Cameron Sample, for $21. And then the guy I got from you, Chase on. I mean, I would guess he's going to score more than 37 points, but
He'll have more opportunity.
little filler. And then I have some old crusty fucking linebackers with Levante Davis and Queen. I love Queen being in Pittsburgh. I think he's going to eat. And then I have Marte Mapu, who I think is going to definitely have more than 100 points this year. Filled it out with a couple other guys in the auction, and then I have a shit ton of decent safeties, I think. So, I mean, I'm going to be spending, in the free agency on some decent flyers at cornerback and see what happens. And I have all my draft picks. So that's it. I mean, as balanced as
You're doing a
made it.
lot better than our Lord and Savior Jesus and those gauchos borrachos. I'll tell you that.
A lot of a lot of question marks, but I think pretty solid. So, all right, let's move on. Next segment is to RB or not to RB. So the whole point of this is just to kind of try to figure out if having RBs is important. Should you pit, can you win without a couple decent ones on your roster? And so here's some statistics. 26 RBs scored over 200 points last year. 26. 53 scored over 100 points. 11 teams, I went through every single team in our league, have suitable 1 to 2 combos. And that's basically just a pretty quick snapshot of like, hey man, do these guys pass? I didn't include any rookies that were outside of the top 6. Like Jonathan Brooks is probably, I included him because I think he's going to have a role. So there's a little bit of leeway there. 7 of the 8 teams and 7-11 of the overall best teams have at least 2 good running backs on their team. All teams that finished in the Final Four last year had at least 2 good running backs on their team. Last year's draft had 4 guys that were absolute without question hits. That's Gibbs, Bijan, A-Chain, and I would consider Spears to be a hit last year as well. Then you have guys that are still questionable. Charbonnet being one of them, Chase Brown being one of them, Condre Miller and Bigsby, right? So those were all the running backs that were drafted in the first round. There was 8 total last year. This year, there was 9 taken in the first round, okay? So we'll see if those guys, half of those guys actually move into that second tier next year. For the auction, there were 10 running backs that went over $50. the average cost for those 10 running backs was $132. Only two of those running backs scored over 200 points. Only five scored over 100 points. 114 points on average, with Mostert carrying almost 3 times that amount. So here's the moral to the story as far as I'm concerned. I don't think you can win BC without having two good running backs. B, you can't get it running backs in auction. And if you draft one, you better fucking hit. That's it. Like that's my 2RB or not to be segment based off of the statistics over the last couple of years. Now, I didn't go back, 3, 4, 5 years, but I think there's a trend because of what's going on in the NFL where every team has 3 running backs for the most part. They're going more committee style. Like, I just don't see it happening to where you need to invest a ton of money into them, but you need to have 2 solid RBs that score points, and then you need to have like 1 or 2 more that can get you 3 or 4 or 5 points that are live bodies. So that's my take on the 2RB or not to RB.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, except for let's look at our homie JB, who sat with 104, 105 and went running back of Michael Carter and Trey Sermon.
If you
Yikes.
if you make those picks and you don't hit, you're fucked. And I would say
But that's the
why
thing. Like, the thing about running back is just, boy, man, it's like they gotta, not only do they gotta hit, and when they do, how many years do you get? Like you'll get 5, probably 4, 4 or 5. But like a good wide receiver, just ship that guy for 11 years, man. Like it's. I agree with you that
Jahmyr Gibbs is going to last more than 5 years in the league because he's only going to be used 12 to 14 times a game, and he's going to catch passes, and he's going to be
well, I
explosive.
mean, as an
So,
elitist, as like
right.
he's not going to be a top 10 running back in 5 years.
Oh, I would bet that he's still in the top 10.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's a passing league. Like, any guy that can catch 5 to 6 passes and have 100 yards in the game, like, and score 8 touchdowns is going to be pretty valuable.
You're right. I'm
know,
wrong. Let's look at.
But you're not gonna. But you're not gonna be able to get. You're not gonna be able to get Jahmyr Gibbs, like, unless you're fucking get lucky and trade for John Candy's picks.
2019 draft. Josh Jacobs, still relevant, but
this is a nice spreadsheet.
I mean, he's borderline. People are talking about this as the last year, right?
Yeah.
Year 5, fucking crazy. David Montgomery, relegated to rotation guy. Miles Sanders, fucking done skis. Darrell Henderson, out. Pollard, actually, probably, because he didn't like have these huge workloads, might be okay.
So where are you pulling these guys?
Like,
so where are these guys drafted? Where was Darrell Henderson drafted? I don't remember him being
right here, dude. It's all the same. Look on the left. See this thing? There we go. There we go.
Wow.
See it?
Okay. Yeah.
So it's comparing pick by pick every year, right? So this is BC's draft. I will make this. I'll put this in the messaging board for the whole league to access, because it's just whatever. Like, I made it. Go look at it.
There's
If you're curious about but even then, it's okay. So here's AJ Brown. How soon do you think AJ Brown is not going to be good? Same draft.
At $700 on a
I'm just saying, somebody just paid $700. Nobody's, you know what I mean? Like, the DK Metcalf, is he done? Like, these guys aren't done. These guys are in their prime.
That's
the running backs are at the end. And so, like, that's the only argument I'd make. I agree with you that it's just like, dude, but like, also, what wide receivers are you really getting in the auction? We just looked at them. It was like, there was 2 good guys and everyone else that you're like, kind of dicey.
Would you rather have TJ Hawkinson or Darrell Henderson? I mean, it's like stuff like that, like.
Yeah.
Sam Laporta or Zach Charbonnet. Like,
Hey
I mean, like,
man, you got to hit those tight ends though, man. And like
Brock
tight
Bowers
ends
or
are tight ends are
Jalen
hitting
Wright.
more now. Tight ends didn't used to hit, man.
Well,
Tight
because
ends
it's
used
a
to take
passing league.
forever.
It's a passing league, and they're more inline tight ends that are being used. And why? Because Travis Kelce has turned the Kansas City Chiefs into a fucking absolute fucking juggernaut. Like, I mean, I think you have to follow the trends of the NFL and draft accordingly in fantasy. It's like that's the whole thing. Like, if they're not paying,
207 Raquel Armstead never even fucking saw
never heard of
dirt.
Bryce Love right before
Like,
that.
yeah, dude, Bryce Love, dude. What? Did that guy ever see a snap in the NFL?
Would you rather have Jacoby Myers or Benny Snell?
Whoa. Quentin
So
Williams. That's
if you're
such a
gonna
reach for a
if you're
D
gonna pay for
tackle.
a running
This
back,
is
you
such
better
a
pay.
reach for a D tackle now. 203 for a D tackle, but if you have Quentin
Brian
Williams, you're pretty
Burns.
happy.
Brian Burns at 215 or fucking Daryl Henderson.
Kobe Myers just snuggled down there. I mean, look at this is what we're getting. But this is what I'm saying. Like, okay, they're
Jelani
Josh
Tavai.
Oliver in the middle of the second, dude. Like,
Jelani Tavai, dude. Like Bobby Okirki. Like, look at these linebackers that are scoring massive amounts, 220, 250 points a year over fucking running backs that were taking 16 picks ahead of them, 20 picks ahead of them. Like, that's the
so
whole point.
to your point, yes, you need that to win, but how many misses can you sustain not getting these other guys?
So I wouldn't have had a problem with Timo Butkus trading what was his picks? Let me look real.
Oh,
209, 119, and 115 for Jonathan Brooks. I wouldn't have a problem with it.
yeah.
That's a safety, Wilson, the wide receiver, and Ray Davis. Like Ray, like I think that's the kind of stuff that we're talking about here. Is like, why not just take those 3 picks and say that's the only running back that I see having a 6-7 year career. I need him to win. I can find other players that can fill these roles. Like, there's no guarantees outside.
Oh, I have a quick shout out to everyone watching that's in our league. I don't have access to 2014. Can somebody see if they have access to 2014? And if they can, I'm wondering if I actually didn't start this league. Because, like, I don't know. I can't access the first year of this league.
Who was the
But
NDSU?
the Bison? No, I don't.
Who's NDSU Bison? That was like one of our rivals, and Colorado State too. Jesus Christ, these are all my college basketball rivals.
This is
Anyway,
back when we actually. Hey, J.J., let's go. That was a good pick. No, I'm just kidding. But we have almost 10 years of data here, by the way. Go nerd out. Or just
if you're
wait for
gonna,
me to do something or Corey or anybody any of the savvy owners. I'm not a savvy owner. I suck in this fucking league. I put too much time into looking at stuff though, as you can see by the stupid spreadsheet.
hey, you better hit on Jalen Wright at 112, or might as well draft Cody Schrader at 312 and fucking call it a day. I guess that's my point. It's like, if you're gonna take dart throws on running backs, take them in the 3rd round, the 4th round, 2nd round late or whatever. Don't take them
Hey
like at
man,
115. That's my whole point.
I almost made Moose rage quit the league before he rage quit the league by trading all the guys that I did exactly that. The Jalen Warrens, the McLaughlins. These guys are at like 5th, 4th, 5th rounds. These are late guys,
No.
and it feels like a good idea because I got this guy right here. Oh, there, that guy. But goddamn, man, it's hard to get a running back.
Well,
It's hard to get a running back.
2022 is pretty good. You got first 2 picks are hits, more than likely. James Cook's a hit. You got Spiller, absolutely not a hit. Rashad White's a hit. Brian Robinson's a hit. Damian Pierce seemed to be a hit, not a hit.
It's a good draft, actually.
Yeah, I mean, that's about as good as you can really do. I mean, and I think there's probably a
Not a
couple
lot
of
of misses. Wow,
Tyler
Traylon Burks.
Algier. Tyler Algier is a hit. Samir White's probably a hit.
Oh.
You
Uh-huh.
know, I mean,
Well, now he's gonna have a chance to be the dude.
at least he's got a chance. But then again, look at Trey McBride. You know, like, would you rather have him or Isaiah Spiller? I mean, I know that's like picking the best from the worst, but it's like Wandale Robinson. I mean, fuck. I mean, it's tough. It's tough out
It's a
there.
good
John
draft.
Mechie, Alec Pierce. Eesh.
Trey McBride, 131.
Don't miss on your draft picks. Don't miss on it. Justin Ross.
Oh, yeah, it's so
Yeah.
easy not to miss on your draft picks. Just waiting for
Uh,
all mine to get into legal trouble. Hey, I'm getting pinged to go get dinner. So, what do we got
all
left?
right. So we have 2 segments left. I'll let you pick which one you want to do. The free agent tag one was the one that we kind of had planned. Just we can talk about that quickly, whether or not you think we should change it or not. And then we had the asterisk players that I know you put a lot of work into. So
What do
let's
you mean
touch.
free agent tag? Like
So
the
the strategy of
franchise
the
tag?
AJ Brown. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Through the auction and then being able to overpay for someone and then franchise tag them, whether that's like within
Nonsense. I
the
won't even entertain the idea of changing this rule.
me neither. Me neither.
I won't
It,
entertain it. Like I know it feels gross because um, he whose name Corey does not want to say on this pod, like
well,
paid
I'll
an
call him by
absurd
Sean.
amount of money.
Sean's a great person. I like Sean. I'm
Okay,
not going
call
to
him
call him
Sean
by
then.
his. I'm not going to call him by his
His alter ego.
whatever his fucking.
So, but
Yeah.
but look, man, and somebody point this out. The only reason he paid that much is because somebody else was willing to bid him that high.
Yeah.
It's two
The commission.
people that have to do, and it was the commish. But like, even take that out. It takes two to tango with fucking auction bidding.
It's been going on
You're
for
saying
years.
they're both in the wrong. I was in a bidding war with 6 guys for Kelsey and had to pay 420 last year, so I can get him for a nice happy price of whatever 160 or whatever he is, right? That's how it works.
It's
Sacrifice today for the glory tomorrow is why the franchise tag actually works. If you took that out, we should just eliminate franchise tags because nobody bids on franchise tags.
correct. Yeah.
Ever.
That's the check. That's
In
the
this
check
league,
anyway.
ever.
Pay the
So
first.
if you take the other thing away, then you just take away franchise tags. Why would you have them?
There's not
They're
going to be very
silly.
many situations where there's not going to be very many situations when guys like AJ Brown, who are 26 years old, go into the free agent auction and cost 640. Now there's going to be guys that are
Dude, this
29,
is done
30
by
years old.
this is done by a fuck up by a veteran that is like that made him rage quit.
He made a fucking mistake. He made a mistake. That's it.
Yes, he made a mistake.
I mean,
but that's the only reason
that's
this
it.
guy is available. A massive
That's
mistake.
absolutely correct. He made a mistake, just like someone makes a bad draft pick. He made a fucking mistake. He was penalized for it. There's nothing in the rules that should say anything differently. Follow the fucking rules. If the rules are written as they're written, use the rules to your advantage. Get the players you want. Use your salary however you want. Now, do I think Georgia spending $640, or I'm sorry, Sean spending $640 on AJ Brown was smart for him? No, he was like in the top 16, like, or 18 last year. Like, he could have used that money and fucking build a team that was a little bit more prevalent, in my opinion, but he got one of the top 10, 15 players in Dynasty. So we'll see what happens, but like, that's his choice. Like, that's his
Vito's
choice.
going
It
to
doesn't mean
spend
it's free pick.
$600 on 3 linebackers who are only good this year. Why can't Georgia do $600 on a wide receiver that he's
For
going
a
to
top
have for
five
the next,
Dynasty asset.
for the
Absolutely.
next 6 years if he can? Right, 7.
Yep.
He's got 2 franchise tags he can use on him.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, there's no reason to adjust rules that don't need to be adjusted. They're written now.
Let's stop talking about changing the rules. You too,
Okay,
Georgia.
well,
Shut the fuck up. Stop
right,
changing the
hold on.
rules.
And quit
There are
busting
so
people's
many
balls, man.
consequences
It's like,
when you change rules. We've seen it. It sucks. It has to be very thought out and it has to be very obvious when you change these rules. I'm getting sick of changing rules, even though they fuck me sometimes.
I don't think we don't need to fine tune anything. We don't need to change anything. I also think that, like, just fucking relax a little bit, like let's make this fun. Like let's not, call out fucking everything that appears to be a problem. It's not really a problem. Like if you have something valid to say, it's kind of like the boy who cried wolf. Like every time you say
Yeah.
something, it doesn't have to be a fucking negative. It has to be, constructive, like to a point where it's actually a problem, right? Like, and some of these things aren't problems. It's like the auction has been closed for how many days? Everybody knows the auction's closed. Like just because the commission hasn't pressed the button doesn't mean that the commission is a fucking idiot and being stupid. Just don't fucking bid someone when the auction's been closed for 2 weeks. It's like I just don't like get the firestorm mentality anymore. It's like let's have an enjoyable season. Let's enjoy each other as league mates. Let's be kind to each other. Let's like do all that. Like let's just not fucking create drama that doesn't need to be created. We have enough of that in our day-to-day lives. Like that's how I feel about it. So anyway, all right, let's do the asterisk thing and then let's wrap this up. We're two and a
Yeah,
half
yeah.
hours in. We're done. So
What
this
is
is all you
wrong
do.
with us?
I
Why
didn't
can't we do a normal fucking podcast, like 30 minutes and get the fuck out? Well, it's been a long time. That's why we're covering like 7 topics, so that
yeah,
probably need an hour each. It's okay. We don't have time to do this twice a week, so this is where we are. So hold on, let me here we are. Asterisk. Mr. John Candy wanted to know asterisk specific players. I really wanted to find out how undrafted players that in our draft also contended, but the filtering systems just don't let me see who are rookies in the auction. So the reason I was able to pull these easily is because they are at the top with an asterisk. So these aren't all necessarily rookies, they're just all added players. But majority of them are rookies because if they were any good, they would have been added on the system before. So first year I pulled up has well, no, first year doesn't have anybody actually, but I don't think we were really like we weren't in tune with like what that meant, right? It's like nobody even knows what the hell's going on, and nobody's doing homework yet. But by here you can see we got some more. But man, Robbie Anderson is a pretty money asterisk guy, not in MFL system, added by a savvy owner who was doing camp homework. Because that's what it is. If you're adding one of these guys, it's because you're looking at camp tape. You're like in the shits. If they're not in the MFL system, you're like finding real gems, you know? Because even some of these guys that you would think are coming at it, like most of the undrafted guys are in the system, like the big ones, because they've been requested by everyone else. It's this psycho league of 32 teams where we're just, can I get the 70th best guy on this team in the system? Robbie Anderson, Alec Erickson, Khalif Raymond, all 1 year. I think this is the best year I found. And some of these guys could have contributed, but like this has to be like we know their name, right? Quickly. Otherwise, like I'm not Google searching these guys. But
yeah. I got you.
this is going to go into the chat, into the message board. So if any of you guys out there peruse through this, I would actually, for science, would love you to let me know if you knew some of these guys were actually
Damn, Austin
scored
Eckler was
points.
post-auction free agent pickup. Wow.
I got him. I got him after the auction in the first run of waivers. And I think I had to add him to the system. That's why I
Wow.
put him there. And here's where, this is a small tangent. We don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to go quick. Here's where the rule where you can transition tag and franchise tag players that you pick up in the free agency pool. And now we can. Like, I didn't get to do that with Austin Eckler. And the commissioner at the time denied me to do that. So that's why it's cool if it is now, and I think that's just how we're rolling. But I know for a fact that I had him for 1 year, and then I had to go pay like $350 for him to get him back, and then franchise him and some shit, and then I traded him. But like, I know from that experience of getting that valuable of a guy as a free agent, 0 years, right? That like I was unable to franchise or transition him. Chris didn't let me because Chris was a old commissioner. But this Dylan Cole, not a stud, but like he's been spot started and he's probably helped win weeks for guys. Are you can see that's quite a bit of guys. I'm kind of throwing guys that I know have scored points. Maybe some of these have, but like I'm trying to like, did you score like 60 to 80 points in a year? You
Right.
know, if I don't know you did. JC Jackson ended up being was apex for like a year or two and then like, went downhill, but Neiman's rotational, Tim Patrick's like up and down, Cam Sims. These guys aren't,
I mean,
they're not blowing the roof off.
Tim Patrick's a good win. I mean, he's a
Oh yeah.
viable free wide receiver.
Got him for $1, man. Put him in the system, got him for $1. Not bad. Jeff Smith, still, dude, that guy wasn't that good. A lot of these guys, I recognize their names because I remember doing homework on them, but I definitely don't remember them playing. This year there was a shitload of guys. 2020, I don't know. We drafted early because it's like some years we drafted in like July, and there's so many guys in the system by that point. You know what I mean? But if we drafted early, then you get like this is a shitload of added players. This is the most I saw. 2 hits. And Michael Holt, I think Michael Holt took like fucking 4 years to even be relevant. Bryce Huff, same thing, dude. He was a rotation guy until he just blew up over in the Jets, right?
Yeah.
I think the Jets got him off Detroit's practice squad. What else we got here? Marquise Bell did some good work last year. But again, I had him on a taxi squad for a couple years. It's like,
Jason
Margot
Brownlee.
What's that?
Jason Brownlee was a decent hit last year, I would say.
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah. I see some of these guys. This is why I wanted people to look at it, because like some of these guys, I did remember, like name recognition, but I just wasn't sure. But hit rate's not great, right? You're like, but 1, 2, sometimes 3, 4 guys will get you points, or even might find a stud here and there. Or I think Candy was trying to basically say it's like a waste of time, and this kind of proves he's right. Except leaving a taxi squad like empty versus getting a JC Jackson or a Tim Patrick, just why? Like,
I imagine if you went through it, though, the people that have actually put in the time that do this year over year and put in the time in other aspects of this league are probably some of the top owners in the league. Like, it's like I didn't even know what an asterisk player was like before we started this segment. I mean, like I did, but I'm like, I have not put that amount of time into that. I put my time into other things, but I mean, yeah. I mean,
I think guys like Mando, Georgia, myself. I don't even think Roman adds players. He did like 1 year. He was aggressive and added some players, but a lot of the owners just don't want to bother.
but you can't build a team
for deep diving.
You're not building a team with asterisk players. You might get lucky, but like
you're
basically.
But man, it's really hard to keep rookies on a taxi squad. It's really hard to keep rookies on a taxi squad in this league.
Yeah,
you can't afford to lose a stud. And so like these guys are just taking up space. Why not? Bryce Huff? Jesus Christ. Imagine having Bryce Huff right now because he was. But I don't even know. That guy could have been dropped. That's the other thing you would have to look at.
No, Michael Hoyt didn't. He went back into the free agent pool. Like, so did Bryce Huff. They're not even on the same owners' rosters anymore. Like, that's the other aspect of it. It's like, yeah, you have them and you hit on them, but
because we get impatient and just clear this shit out because it's free. But these were both dollar players, dude.
Right.
Think how good they are now. Like it's pretty wild.
Yeah. Awesome, dude.
That's it.
Awesome, dude. Well, it's good connecting again. Love you, and we'll do it again soon. All right. Have a good time eating tacos.
Digest this 2.5 hour beast we just sent you.
Best we could do. All right. Talk to you soon, bud.
Yeah, have a good one.